I have a zombie assistance system. This video is purely for entertainment and does not infringe on copyrights or laws. The rights to the novel and image belong to the original author. We do not claim ownership. Don't like waiting and want to listen to this fanfic in full now? Subscribe to our Patreon, where you'll find the best fanfics. Chapter 126. Qiushui Zealand's home. After she finished speaking, Wang Qiushui looked at him proudly. This time, she should be right. Qiushui Zealand shook her head. No, they promised me. He looked at Qiushui Zealand helplessly. This person was hopeless. He thought about it and said, if they could take care of your sister, they wouldn't have to rely on you to find food alone. There are so many zombies outside, why should you take risks alone? Qiushui Zealand opened her mouth and finally said, I know Kung Fu, so I should really take this responsibility. Besides, aren't you hiding here and letting her find food for you? He slapped his forehead and almost fainted from anger. Wang Qiushui patted his shoulder proudly and looked at Qiushui Zealand. That's different. Here's my little white face. I'm happy. Hearing this, he really almost fainted. Qiushui Zealand looked at Wang Qiushui, then looked at him and nodded thoughtfully. He was speechless. He was obviously in charge of everything in secret, but he became a little white face who lived on soft rice. That was unfair. However, he did not explain anything, so as not to reveal all his cards. At this time, Qiushui Zealand said, by the way, do you have time now? How about we go and pick up my sister and the others first? Wang Qiushui looked at him. He finally calmed down and looked at the time. Wang Qiushui's physical strength should have recovered almost, so he nodded. So the three of them went downstairs. In order not to reveal too much and to save energy, Wang Qiushui did not transform. When they reached the first floor, Qiushui Zealand looked at the pool of stains. Are these all the people you killed? He was speechless. Do you think we are murderers? These are all black liquids from zombies. Qiushui Zealand nodded. With such a large pool of traces, many zombies must have died. Therefore, the strength of these two people is definitely good, and her sister can be safely handed over to them. In fact, she did not have much hope that her grandfather could recover. He walked aside and asked, can you ride a bicycle? Qiushui Zealand nodded. So, he used the hammer of the earth to open another lock. This bike is yours. He and Wang Qiushui walked to the security booth and sat on their bikes. The bike was lucky, and it was not damaged in the hail of bullets and swords just now. He planned to upgrade the bike after he had enough experience. Qiushui Zealand rode the bike out, and when passing the security booth, she asked curiously, did this zombie die and then be dried up by the wind? Wang Qiushui said quickly, he is not dead yet, he is just locked in and can't get out. Qiushui Zealand was even more curious, but we three living people are walking around in front of him. Why is he still like a sculpture, motionless? Could it be that he wants to sneak attack us when we are not paying attention? Wang Qiushui waved his hand. You think too much. He is just afraid of us. Qiushui Zealand remembered that the zombie Wang Qiushui turned into was so powerful, so she nodded. He didn't wait for Wang Qiushui to say anything else and rode the bike downstairs. Qiushui Zealand hurriedly followed, looking around vigilantly. Are we really okay if we walk around like this? What if we attract zombies? Wang Qiushui laughed. We have killed all the zombies around here a long time ago. Where can there be zombies? Qiushui Zealand immediately relaxed when she heard this. No wonder she hardly saw any zombies when she went out recently. Wang Qiushui suddenly remembered something at this time. By the way, did you search all the stores on both sides before? Qiushui Zealand nodded. We rely on those food to survive until now. Wang Qiushui's face was immediately distressed. So you guys intercepted my spoils. Qiushui Zealand also reacted. I'm sorry, we saw that the number of zombies decreased a lot that night, so we took the opportunity to go into the store to find food. Wang Qiushui sighed. Forget it, it's all over. At this time, he stopped directly. We are here. While the two were chatting, they had returned to Qiushui Zealand's house. In the morning, Wang Qiushui and Qiushui Zealand met here. They parked the car, and then Qiushui Zealand opened the door and walked in. He stood at the door and turned on the scan directly. There were some neutral yellow dots all around, and no red dots. He was immediately relieved, and then walked in with Wang Qiushui. Qiushui Zealand took the two of them upstairs. The little girl who had been seen before heard the familiar footsteps, rushed out directly, hugged Qiuzilan's thighs, with tears in her eyes. "Sister, you are back." Then, she looked at the two of them again. Qiuzilan smiled and touched the little girl's head. "Well, I'm back. By the way, where are Aunt Lee and the others?" The little girl looked up at Qiuzilan. They saw a lot of people at the intersection of the vegetable market, and then said that you would definitely not be able to come back, and then they all left. The smile on Qiuzilan's face froze, and she wiped away the little girl's tears. "They don't understand anything. I'm back, right?" The little girl smiled. "I knew my sister would come back." While the two of them were chatting, there were constant bang 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 sounds coming from one of the closed doors. Qiuzilan glanced at the door, then looked at the two of them. "My grandpa is in there." When he was about to turn into a zombie, he locked himself in there, saying that he didn't want to implicate us. The little girl also said, "Grandpa is still very well behaved at night, but he is disobedient during the day." He nodded. "However, there is no suitable place over there, and it is too troublesome to catch a zombie." Qiuzilan was shocked. Is he going to change his mind at the last minute? She thought for a moment. "Well, as long as you promise to help me take care of my sister, it will be fine." After what happened just now, she already believed what he said. If she hadn't been lucky enough to be rescued, her sister would have starved to death at home. He shook his head. "Actually, I really can't turn zombies into humans, and I don't know how to make zombies rational." Qiuzilan didn't believe it, and pointed at Wang Qiushui. "Isn't she the best example? Moreover, even the zombies in the security booth know to be afraid of you. Do you dare to say that he is irrational?" He sighed. "Fear and rationality are two different things. Low-level zombies will have a natural fear of high-level zombies, and the same is true for humans. So, when you face a level 3 zombie in the vegetable market, you will be trembling with fear." Qiuzilan slumped to the ground, with no light in his eyes. Chapter 127 Zombies Awaken. The little girl stood in front of Qiuzilan, with her hands open, looking at the two of them. "You are not allowed to bully my sister." Qiuzilan quickly stood up, and protected the little girl behind her. "Children are ignorant. Don't blame her. Since you can't do it, then send my sister to you first, and then I will do as we agreed before. However, I'm not sure that I can lure the zombie out." The little girl nervously pulled the corner of Qiuzilan's clothes. "Sister, I won't leave. I don't want to be with them. They are bad people." Qiuzilan turned around and squatted down, looking at the little girl. "Zillion, be good. I will find you when sister finishes her business." The little girl nodded heavily and said nothing more, but her hand was still tightly grasping the corner of Qiuzilan's clothes. Wang Qiushui couldn't bear it anymore, but since he didn't say anything, she didn't ask on the spot. At this time, he took out a second-level healing medicine. "This medicine can heal all injuries, but I don't know if it will work on zombies. Besides, I advise you not to hold too high hopes." Hope rekindled in Qiuzilan's eyes. She took the medicine and nodded to him repeatedly, tears welling up in her eyes. "Thank you," he said again. "Then let's feed the medicine now." Qiuzilan was stunned for a moment, but during the day, zombies are very active, so let's wait until night. He waved his hand. "It's okay, just open the door directly." Then he looked at Wang Qiushui again. Wang Qiushui nodded. Anyway, she had the dark skirt, and it was just an ordinary zombie that couldn't hurt her. Qiuzilan saw that both of them insisted, and she had seen Wang Qiushui's strength, so she took out a bunch of keys. For safety reasons, it was decided that Wang Qiushui would open the door. She inserted the key into the keyhole and turned it gently. He and Qiuzilan stood on both sides of the door, and as soon as the zombie came out, they would press it directly. With his super strength and Qiuzilan's physical fitness, after practicing kung fu, it should not be a problem to do this. Hearing the sound outside the door, the zombies inside banged harder. Wang Qiushui glanced at the two people, then carefully turned the lock and slowly pushed the door open. Strangely, when the door was opened, there was no movement inside. Wang Qiushui was immediately puzzled. There was a banging sound just now, but why was it gone now? Could it be a ghost? So she pushed the door even harder. The next second, a black shadow hit Wang Qiushui and knocked her out. The two people guarding the door saw that this was too much, so they quickly took action, one holding one side, and finally caught the zombie. However, even so, they could hardly hold the zombie. If they hadn't been wearing thick clothes for protection, they would have been scratched by the zombie. Wang Qiushui was not injured, but as a level 2 zombie with a dark skirt, no, it was a person. He was actually knocked away by an ordinary zombie. The injury was not great, but it was extremely insulting. So, she stood up and prepared to get the place back. At this time, a small figure rushed out before her and hugged the zombie's legs. "Grandpa, Zillion missed you so much." Everyone was stunned. They were just busy preparing and forgot to send the little girl to other rooms. To everyone's surprise, the zombie, which was still struggling frantically, became quiet after hearing Qiushui Zillion's voice. However, he and Qiushui Zillion reacted quickly and held the zombie tightly, not daring to relax at all. Qiushui Zillion even shouted, "Zillion, go quickly, don't stay here." The little girl looked up at the zombie, then looked at Qiushui Zillion and said stubbornly, "I won't leave, I want to be with Grandpa." Wang Qiushui also walked over at this time. She did not forcibly take the little girl away, but pinched the zombie's mouth and stuffed the healing medicine into it. The zombie struggled again. At this time, the little girl said again, "Grandpa, be good, take the medicine and you'll be fine." The zombie quieted down again and looked down at the little girl. After a while, the zombie suddenly spoke, "Did Zillion obey?" The little girl looked up and nodded heavily. "Zillion is very obedient. If you don't believe me, you can ask your sister." Qiushui Zillion was stunned, tears streaming down her face. She didn't expect that the medicine was actually effective. He and Wang Qiushui were also confused, but he still held the zombie and didn't let go and reminded, "Be careful, it may be that the medicine caused him to mutate." Qiushui Zillion was stunned for a moment and then resumed her previous strength. Now that her sister is still there, if Grandpa really has a rational zombie, it may be bad for her sister. When the zombie heard the little girl's words, he slowly raised his head and looked at Qiushui Zillion on the side. Qiushui Zillion looked at the blood-red eyes, and her heart kept sinking. The joy in her eyes disappeared, replaced by endless disappointment and fear. "I thought Grandpa was finally well, but I didn't expect that he was still a zombie." If it was a zombie with intelligence and inherited Grandpa's memory, then wasn't he lying to her before? If she had let go just now, would the zombie in front of her have already started killing people? The zombie wanted to laugh, but because his body had long been stiff, he couldn't even laugh. He looked at Qiushui Zillion and sighed for the last time, "Send me back to the room." The little girl still hugged the zombie's legs tightly. "No, I want to play with Grandpa. Grandpa hides in the room every day, and Zillion hasn't seen Grandpa for a long time." The zombie slowly lowered his head. "Zillion, be good." The little girl looked up at the zombie and finally slowly let go of her hand. Then, the zombie did not resist at all and let him and Qiushui Zillion carry him into the room. Later, the little girl and Wang Qiushui followed in. Wang Qiushui was swinging the hammer of the earth in his hand, ready to swing the hammer if the zombie made any unusual movements, and by the way, to avenge the previous revenge. The zombie sat directly on the bed, looked at Qiushui Zillion, and then looked at him. Then, he said, "Although I don't know what happened just now, I'm very sober now. I remember everything that happened before, and I'm more aware of the current state of my body." Qiushui Zillion pursed her lips, not knowing what to say. The zombie continued, "However, my sobriety is only temporary, so I have to take advantage of this time to finish what I want to say. Then, I will save the remaining energy and use it when I need it next time. Once the energy is used up, I will completely lose my mind and turn into a zombie." Chapter 128. Qiushui Zillion asked quickly, "So as long as you replenish that energy, you can stay awake forever?" Without waiting for the zombie to answer, she looked at Wending again. "Do you still have the medicine just now?" The zombie understood, but shook his head. "It's useless. I can feel that my current state is like a last breath. The last breath can only happen once. How can it be maintained forever?" The little girl spoke again at this time. "Is Grandpa going to have a last breath? Will Zillion never see Grandpa again in the future?" It was said on TV that you will never see Grandpa again after the last breath. The zombie shook his head. No, Grandpa is fine. Just now it was just a metaphor. When Grandpa gets better, he will play with Zillion and watch Zillion grow up. The little girl smiled immediately. Yes, Zillion also wants to play with Grandpa. Wang Qiushui's eyes were red, but for safety reasons, he did not leave. The zombie nodded and looked at him again. Thank you for your medicine, which gives me this opportunity to see them again. He shook his head, but did not speak. The zombie said again, I have another favor to do. I wonder if you can help me? Qiushui must have guessed something and shouted, Grandpa. The zombie looked back at Qiushui and motioned her not to speak. At this time, Wang Qiushui spoke up. Go ahead. He glared at Wang Qiushui. He didn't say anything, but Wang Qiushui took over for him. Now the old man is about to die. No, he's turning into a zombie. Isn't this obviously a request for the care of an orphan? If the old man knew about the deal between him and Qiushui, he would probably kill him right now. The zombie looked at Wang Qiushui, nodded, and then said, I hope you can help me take care of them. Zillion is still young, and although Zillion is a little older, she is too easy to be deceived. He was silent for a while. I'm not a good person. I can't help you with this favor. Wang Qiushui also reacted at this time. Wait, what do you mean by taking care of? Let me tell you, he has to rely on me to take care of him now, and I don't have time to help you take care of your granddaughter. The zombie was stunned for a moment, and then looked at Wang Qiushui. Then please take care of them. Wang Qiushui opened his mouth, and didn't know how to respond. Qiushui hurriedly said, Grandpa, I can take care of myself, and I will take good care of Zillion. The little girl also said, Zillion has grown up, and can take care of herself. The zombie nodded to the little girl. Okay, Zillion. Then he looked at Qiushui again. You are too soft-hearted and too stupid. With your personality, you won't live long in this doomsday. Qiushui was silent immediately. The zombie looked at Wang Qiushui again. Then I'll leave everything to you. If there is a next life, I will definitely repay you. Wang Qiushui was stunned and didn't know how to answer. She looked at him for help. He pretended not to see Wang Qiushui's eyes. Wang Qiushui opened his mouth and said, okay. He turned his head to look at Wang Qiushui and felt a headache. He didn't help just now because he wanted Wang Qiushui to keep quiet. As a result, Wang Qiushui foolishly agreed. The zombie breathed a sigh of relief. Thank you. Okay, you guys go out and let me stay in this room. If you need anything, I can help. He and Qiushui both let go of each other's hands. When they heard it, the little girl hugged her. Zillion doesn't want to go out. Zillion wants to be with Grandpa. At this time, the zombie suddenly stretched out his hand. Everyone's breathing paused, ready to take action at any time. The zombie's hand gently touched the little girl's head. Zillion, Grandpa just took medicine and needs to rest for a while. The little girl nodded, then walked out, looking back every few steps. The remaining few people looked at each other, followed and walked out, and locked the door again. As soon as the door was closed, the sound of the zombie banging on the door came out again. It seems that the zombie has returned to its previous irrational state. The three sat down in the living room. After calming down, Qiushui said, I'm very satisfied to see Grandpa again. Thank you. He nodded and didn't say anything. Qiushui looked at Wang Qiushui. You don't have to care about what my grandpa said just now. Then she looked at him again. Our deal is still valid, as long as you help me take care of my sister. The little girl sat next to Qiushui, just grabbed Qiushui's clothes and didn't interrupt. Wang Qiushui was in a complicated mood for a while, and didn't know how to answer. He nodded. Well, I'll keep my word. After getting his answer, Qiushui touched the little girl's head, her eyes full of reluctance. Then, she asked, I just thought about it. There were so many people outside the vegetable market before, but they couldn't lure the zombies out. If I go alone, it will probably be difficult to do it. So, do you have any good ideas? He nodded. We have special props, and there is a high probability that we can do it, but it's not here. Qiushui nodded. Then take me to get it, and send my sister to you by the way. It's still not safe here. Even if those people didn't come to retaliate, the level 3 zombies would still be a big threat. Sooner or later, the zombies would come and eat them. And if they could get the protection of these two people, maybe they could still survive. The little girl grabbed Qiuzilan's clothes and didn't say anything, but her eyes said it all. Qiuzilan sighed and went to pack up. Wang Qiushui watched Qiuzilan leave, then looked at him. Are you really going to let her, an ordinary person, go and lure out the level 3 zombie? He turned his head to look at Wang Qiushui and answered as if it was a matter of course. What else? Wang Qiushui was a little crazy, but I just promised her grandfather that I would take care of them both. What if something happens to her? He thought about it. You promised just now. It's none of my business. She and I just had a deal. Wang Qiushui grabbed his clothes and shook him. I don't care. Anyway, my business is your business. You have to help me find a solution. He looked at Wang Qiushui. How about you take her place? Wang Qiushui blinked her big eyes. What if I die? That's a level 3 zombie. He said directly, if you die, then I will help you take care of them. I will take care of your wife and children. You can go with peace of mind. Wang Qiushui shook his head repeatedly. No, that won't work. Wouldn't I be at a big loss if that happens? You'd better think of another way for me. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 129 Qiuzilan moves. When Qiuzilan came out, after packing up his things, he only saw Wang Qiushui pinching his neck and shaking him around. He didn't know what the two were doing. He quickly patted Wang Qiushui's hand. Wang Qiushui glanced at Qiuzilan standing there and quickly let go of his hand, not forgetting to say harshly, I'll deal with you when I get back. He didn't answer, but looked at Qiuzilan. Is this all you can pack? Qiuzilan had 2 plastic bags in her hands, filled with some clothes and toys. She nodded. These are all for Zillion, and a bicycle can't carry too many things. He nodded. Then let's go. The little girl grabbed Qiuzilan's clothes. Sister, where are we going? I don't want to leave. I want to accompany Grandpa. Qiuzilan squatted down and touched the little girl's hair. It's not safe here, so we have to leave temporarily and come back after the storm is over. The little girl blinked. What about Grandpa? Don't we take Grandpa with us? Qiuzilan's expression dimmed and soon smiled again. Grandpa's kung fu is so powerful, so there is no need to leave. Besides, Grandpa has to stay and guard our home, don't you think? The little girl nodded. Yes, Grandpa's kung fu is the best. I want to be as powerful as Grandpa in the future. Qiuzilan smiled, then stood up and walked out with the little girl. When she walked out of the door, she looked back and sighed in her heart, knowing that she would never have the chance to come back. When she came downstairs, he and Wang Qiushui were already waiting. The 4 of them got in the car and walked upstairs. Someone in the buildings on both sides saw Qiuzilan and shouted, Zilan, where are you going? Take us with you. Qiuzilan shook her head and replied, my sister and I are going out to relax and we'll be back soon. Those people didn't believe it, but they didn't dare to walk out of the door and follow her. So, they could only watch Qiuzilan walk away. He took Qiuzilan all the way up and returned to where they lived. They walked upstairs, and he explained, there is no one else in this house, except the 2 of us, so you can pick a suitable room to live in. Qiuzilan asked directly, where are you going to live? Wang Qiushui replied, we live on the 8th floor. Qiuzilan thought about it and said, then let's live on the 8th floor too, so it will be more convenient for care. He glanced at Qiuzilan and her sister, and then said, we have food and water here, you can take a shower later. It's too early to eat now. If you are hungry, we have snacks here. The little girl said in surprise, that's great, I haven't had snacks in a long time. Qiuzilan wanted to say no. After all, it was good enough to be alive, but seeing her sister's performance, she didn't say anything. After thinking for a while, he added, there is also a level 3 zombie on the high-speed rail next to us, so we may run away at any time. You'd better be prepared for this. Qiuslan was puzzled. Since there is a level 3 zombie next to you, why do you still live here? With your strength, you can definitely choose a safe place. Wang Qiushui copied his previous reason. With high level zombies here, other zombies dare not approach. I know you want to ask why it's different over there in the vegetable market. Because the zombies in the vegetable market will hunt other zombies. After saying that, she smiled smugly. Now, no one dares to say that her IQ is not good. He nodded. Well, she is right. After going up to the 8th floor, Qiuslan looked around and finally chose the room next to Wang Qiushui. Then, she and her sister went to wash up. Both of them hadn't taken a bath for many days. She didn't plan to waste water, but Wendy told her that there was still a lot of water. She thought about it and decided to take a bath. After all, this might be the last time she would take a bath. Girls, after all, love beauty and cannot stand dying in a dirty state. In Wang Qiushui's room, he was looking at the glass box and thinking about how to implement the plan. Wang Qiushui suddenly said, "How about letting her be your assistant?" He almost thought he had heard it wrong and looked at Wang Qiushui. Huh? Wang Qiushui repeated it again. "Let her be your assistant." He was very sure that he had not heard it wrong. "Are you sure?" Wang Qiushui nodded. "I've thought about it. If she can also be promoted to level 2 and then upgrade her equipment a little, her survival rate will be greatly improved." He asked, "Is this your idea? But won't you be jealous?" Wang Qiushui sighed and said with a bitter face, "What can I do? Who made me promise their grandfather? I can't just watch her die. Besides, if Zillion finds out in the future, how will she look at us?" He waved his hand. "This is none of your business. This is a deal between me and her. We are willing. If she really dies, I will be responsible. If Zillion asks about it in the future." Wang Qiushui looked at him blankly and finally shook her head. "Forget it. Because of my stinginess, I will kill a life, and I will feel guilty for the rest of my life." He looked at Wang Qiushui and smiled. "You can't be wronged. Don't worry, I will try my best to find a way to let her live. As for whether it will work, it depends on her luck." Wang Qiushui was surprised and said, "Do you have a way?" He nodded. "I have some clues, but I need to think about it again." Wang Qiushui smiled. "I know you will find a way." At this time, there was a knock on the door. Wang Qiushui opened the door, but found Qiuslan standing outside, and hurriedly let her in. After Qiuslan came in, she said directly, "I have just agreed with Zillion to let her stay here for 2 days. I will be back soon." She agreed. "So, Zillion will rely on you to take care of her in the future." He nodded. "Don't worry, as long as we are alive, we will not let her get into trouble." Qiuslan asked again, "By the way, didn't you say that there is something that can lure the zombie?" He raised the glass box in his hand. Qiuslan asked curiously, "What is this?" Wang Qiushui answered directly, "This is the virus crystal of zombies, something that zombies cannot resist at all. However, it is hard to say whether it will be effective against level 3 zombies." Qiuslan understood. "When the time comes, I will use this thing to lure the zombies out of the vegetable market. But what after I lure them out?" He smiled. "After I lure them out, I will bring them here." Qiuslan was stunned when he heard this. "But if that's the case, wouldn't this place be very dangerous?" Chapter 130 Tailor-made. He handed the box to Qiuslan. "Don't worry, I have my own arrangements. You just need to open this box when the time comes. If it doesn't work, I will find another way." Qiuslan took the box. "Well, I will definitely do it." He looked at Qiuslan again. "Do you usually wear these clothes?" At this time, Qiuslan was wearing a training suit and a pair of canvas shoes on her feet. Qiuslan nodded when she heard it. "It's more comfortable to wear this way." He thought for a while. "Then take off your clothes and shoes." Wang Qiushui and Qiuslan looked at him at the same time. He slapped his forehead. "I'm wrong. Go change your clothes and shoes, and then bring them to me." Qiuslan thought for a while and asked, "You don't have any special hobbies, or are you going to make a cenotaph for me?" He didn't know whether to laugh or cry, but just urged, "Go quickly, you will know later." Qiuslan walked out again after hearing this. Wang Qiushui then came close to him. You can upgrade shoes? Then why didn't you help me upgrade it before? He smiled. I didn't have enough energy to upgrade before, and besides, I didn't think of this at the time. Now she just happens to be running for her life, right? So I wanted to see if I could upgrade her shoes so that she can run faster. Wang Qiushui suddenly realized and then said, then I want to upgrade it too. He nodded quickly. Upgrade, it must be upgraded. Wang Qiushui smiled, then took out a pair of high heels. He was stunned for a moment. Are you sure you want to upgrade this? Wang Qiushui nodded repeatedly. A skirt doesn't look good without high heels. And what if the upgrade releases a feature that allows me to fight freely? He sighed. I'm not talking about this, but you are already tall enough and wearing a pair of high heels. Alas. Wang Qiushui smiled. So you still care about this? Then, how about we change a pair? He shook his head. No, since you have taken it out, it means this is your favorite pair of shoes. Besides, you have such a good figure, you will look better in high heels. Wang Qiushui kissed him on the face and then blushed and said, you are so smooth. He immediately felt motivated and picked up the high heels. System, upgraded to the maximum for me. By the way, give me some good features, otherwise I will add a buff to your head. The system ignored him. Ding. Deduct 40 experience points, upgrade successfully, and obtain the dark shoes. He curled his lips. This system is becoming more and more arrogant. The high heels were naturally different. Although they were still black, they had some dark purple patterns on them, which matched the dark skirt quite well. Moreover, the names of the two were similar. I wonder if they could form a set in the future and trigger a set attribute or something like that. Wang Qiushui couldn't wait to take the shoes and looked at them carefully while urging, hurry up and take a look at the characteristics of these shoes. He clicked on the panel of the dark shoes. Dark shoes, primary form, upgradable, movement speed increased by 40% introduction. With it, you can run faster. Features, non-stick pan, no matter what you touch, it won't get stained, eliminating the trouble of cleaning. Like walking on flat ground, wearing this pair of shoes is like walking on flat ground. Not only will it not hurt your feet, but it will not affect the battle. Shoe cabinet, you can change the style and color of your shoes at any time, and thousands of shoes are at your feet. Shaping, every kick has a 10% chance of a perfect hit. After Wang Qiushui knew the characteristics of the dark shoes, he immediately fell in love with the shoes. These functions are great. Like walking on flat ground directly solves the problem of wearing high heels, and you don't have to worry about tired feet in the future. The shoe cabinet is better, and you can change any shoes you want in the future. He said, actually, I think the shaping one is better. Wang Qiushui sighed. That one is average. I thought it could shape my body lines and make my figure better. He closed his mouth tactfully and didn't say anything else. Sure enough, different genders think about problems differently. Afterwards, Wang Qiushui tried them on again and was pleasantly surprised to find that the shoes could actually grow and shrink as he wished, so he no longer had to worry about them not fitting. At this time, Qiushui also came over, holding the clothes and shoes with a blushing face, and looked at him with a strange look in her eyes. He took the clothes and ignored Qiushui's look. She would be grateful to him later. When Qiushui saw his hands groping around on the clothes, her eyes became even more strange. Wang Qiushui pulled Qiushui over and said, do you think my shoes look good? Qiushui just took a look at the shoes of darkness and felt her mind being sucked in. She calmed down and replied, looks good. In just a short while, he had upgraded Qiushui's clothes and shoes. Fortunately, the system defaulted to the training suit as a set, so only the experience points of one piece were collected, plus the shoes. A total of 80 experience points were deducted. He directly opened the panel and checked the properties of the two items. Martial arts clothes, primary form, upgradable, made of tough fabric. It can block the attacks of zombies of level 2 and below, and has a protective effect on the whole body. Introduction, the martial arts are endless, and this set of clothes can help you go further in the martial arts. Features, non-stick, no matter what you touch, it will not stick to you, eliminating the trouble of cleaning. Use your body as a shield. You can form a layer of shield outside your body to resist the attacks of zombies of level 2+1 and below, which can only be effective once a day. The martial arts road. Every attack, there is a 20% chance of a perfect hit. Martial arts shoes. Primary form, upgradable, increase movement speed by 40% introduction. With it, you can run faster. Features, non-stick, no matter what you touch, it will not stick to you, eliminating the trouble of cleaning. Light, put on it, it seems as if there is nothing on your feet, and your movements become lighter and more flexible. Shaping, every kick, there is a 20% chance of a perfect hit. After reading it, he couldn't help but nodded. As expected of a kung fu practitioner, even the protective gear is related to kung fu, and is completely aimed at enhancing strength, unlike Wang Qiushui's many fancy functions. However, these may also be matched according to each person. Even if this set of protective gear is given to Wang Qiushui, she may not be used to wearing it. Qiushui naturally also noticed the changes in clothes and shoes, and saw him nodding, so she blushed and cursed, "Pervert." He was speechless, picked up the clothes carefully, and then said, "You can take your clothes back, and your underwear, I haven't touched them." Chapter 131 Plan. Qiushui blushed, and took her clothes and shoes back. Wang Qiushui came up to him, "You really didn't touch her underwear?" He shook his head, "Of course not, I'm not a pervert." Wang Qiushui snorted, "By the way, do you think the underwear can be upgraded?" He thought about it, "Maybe, but now is not the time." Wang Qiushui asked, "When will it be? Have you run out of energy again?" He shook his head, "As for the protective effect, I already have the dark skirt, so the underwear is at most icing on the cake. So, let's wait until I can see it before upgrading." Wang Qiushui was stunned when he heard this, and quickly reacted, "Bah, you stinky hooligan." He smiled and didn't continue the topic. Just at this time, the knock on the door rang again. Wang Qiushui opened the door, and saw that it was Qiushui again. Qiushui walked in wearing the upgraded clothes and shoes, and looked at him. "I'm sorry, I misunderstood you just now. By the way, why are my clothes and shoes different?" She didn't plan to wear them when she went back, but the clothes and shoes were so beautiful, and the fabric felt comfortable, so she couldn't help but try them on. As soon as she put them on, she felt the difference, and immediately knew that she had misunderstood him just now, so she thought about coming over to apologize and ask for clarification. He then brought out the set of rhetoric he had said to Wang Qiushui before, and then told Qiushui the panels of the martial arts clothes and martial arts shoes. After listening to this, Wang Qiushui said, "Why do I feel that hers are a little better than mine?" He looked at Wang Qiushui, "Yours is more beautiful than hers." Wang Qiushui smiled, "That's right, there are gains and losses." Qiushui looked at the clothes and shoes on her body, and after a while, she suddenly bowed to him, "Thank you." He was a little stunned for a moment, and hurriedly said, "Don't be like this, these can only increase your survival rate. Whether you can really survive at that time depends on you. After all, with your physical fitness, at most you are between ordinary zombies and level 1 zombies. It is hard to say whether you can withstand the attack of level 3 zombies." Qiushui stood up straight. "Anyway, I still have to thank you. By the way, can you get a set for Zillion as well?" Wang Qiushui said directly, "No, he doesn't have any. How can it be your sister's turn?" Qiushui was stunned for a moment when she heard this. "He doesn't have any himself? Then why did you prepare a set for me?" He waved his hand. "It's useless for a non-combatant like me to have these equipment, so you are still given priority." Qiushui nodded. "If I die, this set of equipment will be left to Zillion." He replied, "Okay." Qiushui continued, "Then I will go back now. If there are no accidents, we will start to implement the plan tomorrow." He thought for a while. "For safety reasons, we will go to the same community tomorrow morning. At that time, we will agree on a time to act, otherwise it will be easy to get into danger." Qiushui naturally understood the seriousness of the matter, so she nodded repeatedly. Then, she walked out. Wang Qiushui suddenly chased after her. "Wait a minute, why don't you go back after you finish your meal? By the way, do you want to come over for breakfast tomorrow? I'm afraid you won't be able to run if you're hungry." Qiu Zilan looked at the sky. Forget it. There's no time. I have to go back early, at least to let those people know that I'm back. Otherwise, they will definitely tell others about my departure. I'm afraid those people will come here this morning, which will be bad for you. Wang Qiushui nodded, then said, okay, by the way, there are a lot of snacks in the room on the second floor. You can take some back, after you are full, and save them for breakfast tomorrow. Qiu Zilan looked at Wang Qiushui, thanked him and left. Wang Qiushui closed the door, and approached him again. You said the plan is to prepare a set of equipment for her? Even if the equipment is fine, she may be beaten to death by internal injuries. He shook his head. You will know tomorrow. Wang Qiushui rushed over directly. Do you want to tell me or not? If you don't, I will do it. I hate you who only say half of the words. He turned over and pressed Wang Qiushui under him. Have you forgotten that my physical strength is much better than yours? Wang Qiushui struggled a little, but couldn't move, and the masculine aura emanating from him made her face red. She finally shouted, let me transform and see who is stronger. He shook his head quickly. No, I can't beat you if you transform. At this time, the knock on the door rang again. He looked over helplessly. Could it be that Qiu Zilan has come back again? Wang Qiushui seemed to have seen a savior. Let go quickly. I want to open the door. He could only throw a cruel word. I will punish you slowly next time. Then he let go. Wang Qiushui stood up quickly, straightened her wrinkled clothes, patted her face to make it less red, and then opened the door. However, the person standing outside the door was not Qiu Zilan, but the little girl, Qiu Zilan. Qiu Zilan was not shy at all, and looked up at Wang Qiushui. Beautiful sister, when can we have dinner? Wang Qiushui's eyes smiled into crescents. Are you hungry? Didn't you eat the snacks I gave you just now? Qiu Zilan shook her head. Grandpa said that you can't eat so many snacks. Even if you really want to eat, you have to finish your meal. After she finished speaking, her stomach made a gurgling sound. Wang Qiushui asked again, how long have you not eaten? Qiu Zilan stretched out her fingers, counted them, and finally said, 2 days. He also came out at this time. Then come on and play with the beautiful sister for a while. I'll go cook, and we'll be able to eat in a while. Qiu Zilan nodded and said, thank you, brother. Thank you, beautiful sister. He touched his chin. Shouldn't you add an adjective before the word brother? You see, there is the word beautiful before the word sister. Qiu Zilan looked up at him, frowned and thought for a while. Thank you, big brother. He suddenly felt very tired and turned around to cook. Wang Qiushui laughed out loud. Big brother, don't go. Let's talk for a while. He waved his hand. I'm going to cry for a while. I'm so sad. Qiu Zilan didn't understand, and after a while she asked timidly, did I say something wrong and make big brother angry? Wang Qiushui felt distressed when he saw Qiu Zilan's expression. He quickly stopped smiling and said, no, big brother is not such a stingy person. You can treat us as your family in the future. Qiu Zilan nodded as if she understood. Chapter 132 Rain Prediction. The next morning, they met in the same neighborhood. As soon as they met, Qiu Zilan rushed up and hugged Qiu Zilan. Sister. Qiu Zilan touched her head. Was Zilan well behaved yesterday? Qiu Zilan nodded. Zilan was very well behaved yesterday, and she also ate a lot of delicious food, including bacon, dried fish, and potatoes. Qiu Zilan couldn't help swallowing her saliva, and then smiled. That's good. At this time, Wang Qiushui walked up and hugged Qiu Zilan. Would you like to play with your sister over there? Your sister and big brother still have something to talk about. Qiu Zilan reluctantly let go of her hand, and then followed Wang Qiushui to tease the security zombie. Qiu Zilan breathed a sigh of relief when she saw Qiu Zilan's happy expression, then looked at him again. After I went back yesterday, they asked me where Zilan had gone. I just said that I found a safe place, and they didn't ask any more questions when they saw me back. He nodded. It seems that your guess is right. They don't care where Zilan has gone. They only care about whether you are here and whether you can continue to help them find food. Qiu Zilan sighed. Yes, in their eyes, this is the only role I play. He asked again. Then when are you going to do it? Qiu Zilan thought for a while. 3 days later. He asked curiously. 3 days later? Qiushui nodded. Yes, not long after I went back yesterday, the masked man appeared. He divided the food into small bags and shot them into the homes of living people. He felt even more surprised. Is the masked man so kind? Qiushui replied, I thought so at the time, and so did other people. Some people even asked directly, otherwise no one would dare to eat those things. As a result, the masked man said that these were just to prevent us from starving to death. If you want to eat your fill, then stand on the street in 3 days, and it will rain then. He frowned. Does that mean you're going to get wet in the rain? Rainwater contains zombie viruses, and it will cause big problems if it gets on your skin. If you have wounds, you may even turn into a zombie. Qiushui shook her head. Of course we wouldn't be so stupid to go out and get wet in the rain. Later, the masked man said that we only needed to stand outside and we didn't need to get wet in the rain. We could bring an umbrella and wear a raincoat. He thought for a moment. That's even weirder. He just asked you to stand outside and he'd give you food. Besides, how did he know it would rain in 3 days? Qiushui frowned. I don't understand either, but he might appear on the street by then. In this way, I'll have a greater chance of sneaking into the vegetable market and luring the zombie out. He waved his hand. No, the masked man is very cautious and will not appear on the street rashly. Besides, there is no such thing as a free lunch. Besides, if you sneak into the vegetable market, you will be too close to the level 3 zombies and you won't even have a chance to escape. We don't even know where the level 3 zombies are hiding in the vegetable market. Qiushui nodded. Okay, I'll see what happens then. He thought for a while. No, you can just open the box at your doorstep. Once there is any sound in the vegetable market, just run away. If there is no movement, we will make a new plan. Qiushui nodded again. Okay, but do you have a grudge against the zombies in the vegetable market? Why do you take such a big risk to kill him? He smiled. You will know later. Qiushui saw this and didn't ask any more questions. 3 days later, he and Wang Qiushui got up early, but did not go directly to Qiushui's place, but moved the bucket and basin outside the door. Since the masked man said it would rain today, whether it was true or not, it would be good to prepare early. Besides, their water was almost used up. They had just moved for a while when Zillion came down and asked curiously, why do we have to take these buckets outside? Wang Qiushui touched her head. We are going to use it to collect rainwater. Qiushui said quickly. Sister said that the rainwater may not be clean and cannot be drunk. Wang Qiushui smiled and said, we have a water purifier that can clean the rainwater. The rainwater you drank before was purified rainwater, including the rainwater we used for cooking and bathing. Qiushui nodded. Then I will help too. After that, she picked up a small basin and staggered out. Wang Qiushui did not stop her when she saw this. After the move was completed, Wang Qiushui asked, where are we going next? He pointed to the roof of the seafood restaurant. Let's send Zillion up first. Qiushui looked up at the tall roof. We have to climb the long stairs again, right? Wang Qiushui shook his head. I'll let you experience the feeling of flying later. Qiushui asked curiously, is it the kind of roller coaster? I went to the amusement park before, but I was too young to play. Wang Qiushui smiled. It's more exciting than that. Qiushui nodded and didn't ask any more questions. Then, Wang Qiushui transformed while Qiushui was not paying attention. The main thing was the transformation process, which was too inappropriate for children. Qiushui turned around. Sister, why are your eyes red again? Wang Qiushui smiled. So, sister, do you look better now or before? His heart skipped a beat, and the fatal question came. Qiushui was silent for a long time before she said, it looked good before. Wang Qiushui smiled. Does it not look good now? Qiushui said, now it has red eyes, like a rabbit. Very cute. Wang Qiushui smiled even more happily. He nodded repeatedly on the side, and he was learning so much. Wang Qiushui hugged Qiushui. Then shall we go up now? Qiushui nodded, and then tightly grasped Wang Qiushui's skirt. The next second, Wang Qiushui stretched out one hand and placed it on the edge of the roof. QIU Zillion only heard a whistling wind, and the scene in front of her changed rapidly, as if she was going up. When she came to her senses, she had already fallen to the ground. She looked around curiously, and only saw the wall on the roof and the white clouds closer. Wang Qiushui looked at QIU Zillion. How is it? Is it exciting? QIU Zillion nodded. Wang Qiushui said again, then you wait here obediently for a while, okay? QIU Zillion grabbed Wang Qiushui's skirt and didn't let go. Is Zillion not obedient? So sister wants to abandon Zillion? Wang Qiushui shook her head repeatedly. No, I'm going to pick up that big brother. He hasn't come up yet. QIU Zillion blinked her eyes and finally slowly let go of her hand. Okay then, I'll wait here for sister to come back. Chapter 133 Paparazzi Suit. After Wang Qiushui landed, she ignored him and went upstairs with a bucket. He looked at her strangely, but didn't say anything. It was still early anyway. After a while, Wang Qiushui came out with a bucket full of snacks. He was surprised and asked, what do you want to do with so many snacks? Wang Qiushui sighed. Zillion thought I was going to abandon her, so I thought about it and brought her some snacks upstairs. He thought about it. Wouldn't that make her misunderstand more? Wang Qiushui asked in confusion. No way. Then she waved her hand. Forget it. Don't worry about it. It's important to do business. Take this. He took the bucket, then put his arm around Wang Qiushui's waist, and then leaned close to her ear and whispered, your waist is so thin. Wang Qiushui blushed slightly, and then she hugged him and went upstairs. After he landed, it took him a while to come back to his senses. He shook his head. Doesn't this woman like to be praised? QIU Zillion saw Wang Qiushui appear and ran over quickly. Wang Qiushui took the bucket from him. Look, what did I bring you? As a result, when QIU Zillion saw the snacks, she showed a trace of fear in her eyes and even slowed down her pace. Wang Qiushui was helpless. Could it be that what he said was right? She looked at him quickly and asked for help. He looked at QIU Zillion at this time and then said softly, Zillion, wait here for a while, okay? We brought a lot of snacks. You can eat while waiting. QIU Zillion looked at Wang Qiushui, then at him, and shook her head repeatedly. He thought for a while and then said, Zillion, be good. Brother and sister still have things to do. QIU Zillion asked directly, what is it? He replied, we are going to pick up your sister. She is doing something very dangerous and needs our help. Wang Qiushui tugged at his clothes. How did he say this? QIU Zillion looked at him firmly. Then you must bring my sister back. He nodded. Yes. QIU Zillion stretched out her little finger again. He asked curiously, what does this mean? QIU Zillion replied, pin it up. Don't change it for 100 years. He smiled, then stretched out his finger and pinky pinched with QIU Zillion. Well, we will definitely bring your sister back, I promise. QIU Zillion smiled. Then you guys go quickly. I will wait for you here obediently. Wang Qiushui touched QIU Zillion's head distressedly, then looked at him. Is it really safe here? He walked to the wall and looked down. This restaurant is just at the corner. If people run here and disappear, they will not attract the direct attention of the zombies. Moreover, this building is high enough and the field of vision is sufficient. However, we are next to the zombies after all, which is indeed not very safe. Wait a minute, I'll see if I can get some equipment. Wang Qiushui nodded. If the two of them leave in a while, leaving QIU Zillion here alone, after all, is not very reassuring. Especially since the opponent is a level 3 zombie, it is hard to say what he will do. He shouted directly, System, come out quickly. System, what do you want to talk to Dad about? He simply ignored certain words and asked, System, we are going to fight the level 3 zombies now. Won't you give us some support? System, you can choose not to do this promotion task. The words he had already thought of suddenly couldn't be said. After a while, he said again, System, I'm going to kill 2 level 3 zombies this time. It's unreasonable for you not to give me some support, right? The system was silent for a while. What support do you want? Let me make it clear first. I can only give you auxiliary items, not offensive items. He waved his hand. You don't need to worry about that. I just want to ask if you have anything that can isolate the zombies from detecting us so that the zombies can't sense us. The system said directly. Of course it's a paparazzi suit. It's definitely for peeping. No. Taking secret photos. No. It's a must-have equipment for reconnaissance. He rubbed his hands. Then give me a set. System. Go to the mall to check it out yourself. He clicked on the mall directly after hearing that and saw that there was indeed a paparazzi suit inside. Click to view the introduction of the suit. Paparazzi suit. It consists of a stealth cloth and a high-power telescope. The stealth cloth can be draped over the body to isolate all external detection, and even if it stands in front of you, it can't find you. High-power telescopes can provide you with the best sight, making everything happen as if in front of you, with the effect of penetrating walls, and will not make the other party feel spied on. Please, this suit is only available for a limited time in the current stage, and will be automatically removed from the mall after the host completes the promotion task. In addition, this product is only available for rental services, and is not sold to the public. The rental price is 10 experience points per set. He looked at his remaining 126 experience points, gritted his teeth, and rented 4 sets directly. He is not short of money. However, this heart is really painful. Just renting it for a while and 40 experience points disappeared, which can fully upgrade a set of equipment. The next second, there were 4 more paparazzi suits in front of him. Qiushui asked curiously, "Big brother, can you do magic?" He nodded. "Yes, I can do magic." Then, he draped the invisibility cloth on Qiushui. Sure enough, Qiushui disappeared directly in front of them. If they didn't know that Qiushui was here, they would have thought that she was captured by something. Wang Qiushui asked curiously, "This thing is so magical, it can make a person disappear in an instant." He nodded, stretched out his hand to pull off the invisible cloth, but grabbed nothing. Wang Qiushui was shocked. Could there really be an accident? He turned on the scan again, but it showed that there were only him and Wang Qiushui here, and there was no third person. Wang Qiushui was shocked. Could there really be an accident? Or is the effect of this invisible cloth so good that it can't be detected by the scan? He panicked now and hurriedly shouted, "Zillion, are you still here? If you are, pull off the cloth on you." The next second, Qiushuy's upper body appeared little by little, as if it appeared out of thin air. At the same time, it can be seen that the invisible cloth on her body is also falling down little by little. He breathed a sigh of relief. "I was scared to death." Wang Qiushui walked forward and took a look at the invisibility cloth. "So the effect is really good. There's no need to worry at all." Qiushui looked at the two of them and blinked. "What happened just now?" "I've been right in front of you." Wang Qiushui touched her head. "It's nothing. Just put on this cloth after we leave." Qiushui nodded when she heard it. Chapter 134 Asking Qiushui's grandpa for help. He picked up the high-power telescope again and looked directly in the direction of the vegetable market. As expected, he could see the scene in the vegetable market clearly. The vegetable market was in a state of depression. Only large patches of black stains could be seen. Various goods were scattered on the ground, but they were obviously no longer edible. The strange thing was that after looking around, he still couldn't find any trace of the zombies in the vegetable market. Moreover, he found that this high-power telescope did not need to be adjusted manually, and it was completely at will. As long as you want to see a certain place in your mind, it will naturally appear in front of you. Of course, this distance is limited. You can see very clearly within the range, and the farther you go, the blurrier it becomes. However, he didn't know how far it was exactly. Anyway, it was enough to see the vegetable market several kilometers away clearly. Next to him, Wang Qiushui and Qiuzhi also picked up a telescope and looked. After watching for a while, he put down the telescope and said to Wang Qiushui, "It's almost time." Wang Qiushui nodded, helped Qiushui put on the invisibility cloth, and then said, "Zhi, wait here obediently, we will be back soon. If you are hungry, have some snacks." Only Qiushui's head was visible. She nodded, then pulled up the invisibility cloth, and the whole person disappeared completely. Wang Qiushui, and he walked to a hidden corner to the side and transformed again, and then hung down from the roof. Afterwards, the two rode their bicycles and rushed down. At this time, it was a little dark, and it looked like it was really going to rain. Wang Qiushui sat in the back seat and asked, "Where are we going now? Are we going to pick up Qiu Zilan?" He shook his head, turned right at the intersection below, went directly into the road next to it, and then turned left at the next intersection. Wang Qiushui looked at it. "You turned right and left. Aren't you still heading towards the vegetable market?" He said directly, "We are not going to the vegetable market. The vegetable market is left to Qiu Zilan. This is what we agreed on long ago. Let's go to her house now." Wang Qiushui asked curiously, "Why should we go to her house? There is nothing valuable in her house. You don't want to attack her grandfather, do you? It's just a little experience point. If she knows, she will kill you." He was speechless. "Who do you think I am? If I want to do it, do I have to be so sneaky?" Wang Qiushui thought for a while. "Then what do you want to do?" He said directly, "You will know later." After that, he pedaled faster. It must be done before the rain. Soon, the two came to the back of Qiu Zilan's house. Wang Qiushui reached out and climbed up, then grabbed the security net with one hand, and cut a big hole in the security net with the soul-breaking knife in the other hand. Then, the two entered the room through the big hole. However, this room was not Qiu Zilan's grandfather's room. The two walked out of the room. He didn't have the key, so he directly used the soul-breaking sword to split the lock. Then, the two walked in. Because Wang Qiushui was there, Qiu Zilan's grandfather didn't rush over directly, but his body was still very calm and didn't tremble. However, he looked at the man and the zombie in front of him. His eyes revealed confusion, and his mouth made a slight ho-ho sound. Wending couldn't help but sigh. This physical fitness is different. He can even withstand the pressure of a level 2 zombie. If he could keep his sanity, he would definitely be able to reach a very high level. Wang Qiushui looked at the zombie, then looked at him. "You don't want to take him as your assistant, do you?" He couldn't help but slap his forehead. "If I could, I would have helped him a long time ago. At least that would restore his sanity, or even turn him back into a human." Wang Qiushui nodded. "It seems to be true. Then why did you bring me here?" He didn't answer, but asked the zombie, "Old man, do you remember us? Do you remember me?" The zombie's eyes rolled, but there was no reaction. He thought about it and shouted again, "Then do you still remember Qiu Zilan?" The zombie's eyes rolled faster, but the reaction was still not very big, and it didn't look like he had regained his sanity. A look of joy appeared on his face. As long as there was a reaction, it would be fine. He then asked, "Do you still remember Qiu Zilan?" The zombie's eyes fixed, and then looked at him. "What happened to Zilan?" He breathed a sigh of relief. As long as there was a reaction, it would be fine. He shook his head first, then said, "Zilan is fine, but Zilan is in trouble." The zombie hurriedly asked, "What happened to Zilan?" He explained, "Zilan is outside, and she will help me lure a level 3 zombie to a certain place later." The zombie looked at him. "Help you?" He nodded. "This is a deal I made with Zilan before. I will help you regain your sanity, and she will help me lure zombies. If she has an accident, I will help her take care of Zilan." The zombie was silent for a while, and finally nodded. "Then what do I need to do now?" He pointed outside. "Zilan is there now, and when it rains later, she will open a box, and then the level 3 zombie may appear. Once the level 3 zombie appears, I hope you can help Zilan block it, and buy some time." The zombie looked at him, without hesitation, and said directly, "Okay." He walked out directly, and then made a big hole in the anti-theft net in front of him. "When the time comes, you can just jump out from here. Whether Zilan can survive depends on you." The zombie was silent for a while, and finally said, "I understand. If Zilan gets into trouble, remember to take good care of her." He nodded, and then said to Wang Qiushui, "Let's go." Wang Qiushui nodded blankly, and still hasn't reacted. Then, the two rode their bicycles back. The sky was covered with dark clouds, and it seemed that it would rain heavily today. Wang Qiushui asked, "Is this your plan?" He nodded. "Strictly speaking, it's just part of my plan." Wang Qiushui asked again, "But if you do this, Zilan will hate you." He smiled. "It doesn't matter." Wang Qiushui thought of what happened just now, and wondered, her grandfather knew that you wanted Zilan to die, so why would he agree to help? He thought for a while. This is a conspiracy. Zilan is in our hands, and Zilan may be in danger, so if he doesn't want Zilan to die, he must go to help. Wang Qiushui nodded. He went on the other hand, he knows that I'm a trustworthy man, because I insisted on completing the transaction with Zilan. And I also said that, if anything happened to Zilan, I would take care of Zilan. So, even if it's just for Zillion, he will go. Wang Qiushui sighed when he heard this. Chapter 135 Preparation. He smiled and said, "Do you think I'm a bad person? Not only did you force Zilan to do such a dangerous thing, but now you're letting her grandfather die." Wang Qiushui shook his head repeatedly. "As you said, this is a deal. Besides, you've done enough for her." He didn't say anything else, rode his bike all the way up, and stopped under the seafood restaurant. Wang Qiushui got off the car. "Should we go up and wait now?" He shook his head and cancelled the transformation. "No, we'll wait here now." Wang Qiushui looked around. "Here." He nodded. "Yes, we'll wait here until Zilan appears. After Zilan appears, the rest will be up to you." Wang Qiushui looked at him. "Then what should I do?" He gestured to the front. "When Zilan appears in our sight, you send me up first. Then, when she walks into your arm's range, you bring her over with the box. At that time, I will take control of your body. Afterwards, let her find a place to hide first. Then I will control you to run to the high-speed rail, and after luring the high-speed rail zombies down, you can take her to the roof together." Wang Qiushui thought for a while. "It sounds a bit dangerous, but since it's your plan, let's do as you say." He felt a little guilty. "You won't blame me for putting you in such a dangerous situation, will you?" Wang Qiushui shook his head. "What I'm going to do is much safer than Zilan, and I'm a level 2 zombie. It's not that easy to die. Besides, if you follow your method, at least you can save Zilan. It's worth it." He smiled. "That's good. I was worried that you would be jealous." Wang Qiushui snorted. "Am I such a stingy person?" He directly put his arms around Wang Qiushui's waist. "I don't know. After all, each transformation only takes a short while. It will take a while to know if you are stingy." Wang Qiushui was a little confused at first, but after a while he finally reacted, blushing and pushing him away. "You are being a hooligan again. Don't forget that Zillion is still watching up there." Only then did he remember that Zillion was still up there, so he didn't do anything. After a while, Wang Qiushui asked, "By the way, are you really okay without an umbrella? And Zillion, do you want to give her an umbrella?" He shook his head. "Holding an umbrella will affect our actions. I have no wounds on my body, and I'll be fine, as long as I don't drink the rainwater. As for Zillion, the invisibility cloth will cover her whole body, so there should be no problem." Wang Qiushui nodded. "Okay then." As he finished speaking, raindrops began to fall, falling on them, on the road beside them, and wetting the ground. Wang Qiushui asked curiously, "How do you think the masked man knew it would rain today? Weather forecasts in the past were not so accurate, and there is no weather forecast now. Could it be that he knows the magic to call the wind and rain, or that he has the corresponding supernatural powers?" He shook his head. If the masked man was that powerful, he would not have dared to hide in the dark and shoot cold arrows before. "I think this rain may be related to the level 3 zombie. I just don't know if the rain was brought down by the level 3 zombie, or he had a premonition." Wang Qiushui frowned. "It seems that this level 3 zombie is quite powerful. Can we really be the last one to reap the benefits?" He smiled. "No matter how powerful he is only level 3. The zombie on the high-speed rail is also level 3. If we can't be the last one to reap the benefits, we can still steal heads. As long as we can steal heads, you will also be level 3 by then. Then upgrade your equipment and beat him up." Wang Qiushui nodded. "Okay, then I will beat him into a meat paste and see if he dares to seduce me again." While the two were talking, the rain began to get heavier. In order to avoid any mistakes, the two of them stayed in the rain and waited for Qiushui to arrive. On the other side, Qiushui walked out of the door early in the morning with the glass box containing the zombie virus in her pocket. In other buildings, people kept coming out. Relatively speaking, the survival rate in this area is still quite high, at least much higher than other places. And this is thanks to her and her grandfather. In the early days of the apocalypse, people did not dare to go out after eating the remaining food at home. In the end, her grandfather risked his life every day to find food for people. Of course, it was mainly for her and Zillion. As a result, he was scratched by zombies and turned into a zombie. After those people knew about it, not only did they not express anything, but they also clamored to beat her grandfather to death. It was not until later that she took on the responsibility of her grandfather and guaranteed that her grandfather would not hurt anyone that they gave up. Thinking of this, she sighed softly. Maybe she was really too soft-hearted. If they hadn't appeared, I would have followed in my grandfather's footsteps. When those people saw Qiushui, they didn't come up to say hello or anything. Because in the past 2 or 3 days, after sending Qiushui away, Qiushui hadn't left the house again, let alone going out to find food. Fortunately, the masked man appeared at this time. Many people were thinking about how to get close to the masked man. After all, judging from the masked man's hand, he must have hidden a lot of food. Just thinking about it, the masked man walked out of the vegetable market. He was wearing black clothes and black pants, and a black mask, with only his glasses and mouth exposed. However, he was carrying a bow on his back. There was a bulge on his waist, which should be a knife. He walked up all the way, shouting, "Everyone present can get 3 days of food, and I will distribute it to you after the rain." I originally prepared enough for everyone, but it seems that some people don't want it. So, if there is any extra later, you can just divide it equally. Those people cheered immediately, secretly thanking themselves for coming out, and only those fools would hide in the house. After the masked man finished speaking, many people came out of the house again, obviously not wanting their share to be divided up by others. At this time, an old lady came to the side of the masked man and whispered something. After listening, the masked man nodded, glanced at Qiushui, said a few words, and then waved to the old lady. The old lady should have received the promise of the masked man, and she smiled with her mouth wide open and quickly returned to her seat. Someone next to her asked what the old lady said, and the old lady just smiled, but did not answer. Qiushui showed a self-deprecating smile at the corner of her mouth, and she naturally guessed that the old lady and the masked man were talking about her. I never thought that I would go out and fight every day, but what I raised were a bunch of ungrateful people. She thought of Wending again. Maybe in this end of the world, I should be as ruthless as him to survive. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 136 Big Fish. After the masked man looked around, he walked back to the direction of the vegetable market. As soon as he left, it started to rain. People opened their umbrellas to prevent the rain from falling on them. At the same time, they exclaimed, "It's amazing. It said it would rain today, and it rained today. I knew it would rain today, with such big dark clouds. They said it 3 days ago. Can you do it? I don't know how long this rain will last. I hope we won't be here for a whole day. I remember the last time it rained for a whole day and a whole night." Qiushui didn't hold an umbrella. Anyway, she was almost dead, so it didn't matter whether she brought an umbrella or not. Moreover, she would have to run soon, and carrying an umbrella would affect her speed too much. Those people looked at Qiushui standing there alone in the rain, but no one was willing to come forward to help her block it. They all cared about themselves. Qiushui suddenly felt even colder. This time the rain came fiercely and soon turned into a heavy rainstorm. The rain could only be described as pouring down, falling on people, hitting them so hard that it hurt. The rain hitting the umbrella made a dull slap sound, and people even worried whether the umbrella could hold up. As the rainfall increased, the rain fell continuously and even formed a rain curtain. People could only see 1 or 2 meters in front of them, and they could not see anything farther away. At this time, a huge slap sound came from the direction of the vegetable market. It was like someone stepped on the puddles after the rain and splashed the rain. People looked in the direction of the vegetable market, but they didn't know what happened there. They didn't worry about anything else. They just hoped that the masked man would not get into trouble, otherwise their rain would be in vain. Qiushui's heart tightened, and she had a vague guess, but she was not sure. The next second, someone shouted, "What is that?" People turned their heads and saw a huge black shadow appeared at the intersection of the vegetable market, about 2 stories high. Because of the rain curtain, the black shadow could not be seen clearly, but the red eyes that were looming on both sides were particularly obvious. Someone shouted, "Zombie, zombie!" Others turned around and wanted to run. At this time, a terrifying aura emanated from the black shadow, sweeping over everyone. People were immediately frozen in place, their bodies trembling uncontrollably, and they couldn't even run away. Qiushui was naturally shocked by the aura, but she was in a better situation than those people. In addition, she had the martial arts uniform, so she could barely move her hands. She slowly reached into her pocket. As long as she took out the box and opened the lid, she would have completed half of the task. At this time, a figure appeared next to the huge black shadow. The figure patted the black shadow and said, "These are the food I prepared for you, let's do it." The huge black shadow opened its mouth, and all the rain was sucked into its mouth, forming a short vacuum. At this time, people finally saw the black shadow clearly. It was a huge fish, which looked similar to the rohu, but its entire head looked a bit like a triangle. It was also because of this that it could lie on the ground. Its eyes were still on both sides, but from the red eyes, it was obviously a zombie. However, people have never seen zombies other than humans, nor have they seen zombies of such a large size. Standing next to the fish was the masked man who had asked them to come out in the rain before, with his hand on the fish's head. But the fish did not resist at all, let alone kill him. People began to curse, and they did not know at this time that all this was a conspiracy of the masked man. Some people even regretted it. If they had known not to be greedy for that bargain, they would have given up their lives now. Others looked at Qiushui, who was the best fighter here. As a result, when they found that Qiushui could only stand there, they cried in despair. In Qiushui's house, Qiushui's grandfather had been wandering in the hall. When the breath of the huge black shadow swept over, Qiushui's grandfather's body could not help but tremble. This was due to the suppression of the level. But soon, a glimmer of clarity flashed in Qiushui's grandfather's eyes. He shook his head. "Is this the level 3 zombie that appeared? What should I do?" After a while, he suddenly remembered. "Yes, I'm going to save Zilan. I'm going to save her." After saying that, he looked at the big hole in the anti-theft net and climbed up directly. On the street, after the big fish sucked the rain into its mouth, it quickly spit it out. However, what it spit out was not rain, but drops of black liquid. Those black liquids were like sharp arrows, passing through the rain curtain until they hit something and stopped. Some shot into the wall, leaving a small hole, and some shot into the human body, and the wounds were also barely noticeable. However, there were too many of them. Even if the holes were small, they could not withstand the large number. This wave was an indiscriminate attack. The buildings and people here were covered with dense small holes. However, even so, people did not die. They looked down at their bodies riddled with holes, and breathed a sigh of relief. "It seems that we survived." The next second, their eyes began to turn red, and turned into zombies. However, even though they turned into zombies, they were still suppressed by the big fish, and could not move. The masked man looked at the pairs of red eyes and laughed. "Eat, eat, eat these, you will be able to upgrade soon." Qiushui watched all this, and only then did she know. The big fish was not going to eat people, but zombies, so the masked man used food to trick these people out, and then the big fish turned them all into zombies. She remembered her previous experience in the vegetable market. Those foods should have been deliberately released by the masked man to attract the survivors. At this time, the big fish began to crawl. It had no hands, so it could only walk on the ground with difficulty, relying on its fins. When the fish fins hit the ground, it would make a pa-pa sound, which was the sound they heard just now. Qiushui looked at her body. Because of the existence of the martial arts uniform, the black liquid just now did not enter her body, so she was the only one who did not turn into a zombie at this time. Moreover, the zombies nearby were suppressed by the big fish, and could not move, so they naturally would not hinder her. However, she was still suppressed, so her movements were still very slow. Suddenly, with a bang, a black shadow jumped down from the upstairs. After landing on the ground, he made a standard Bajiquan starting gesture and stood in front of the big fish. Although there was only a thin figure, his momentum was not inferior to that of the big fish. Chapter 137 Grandpa takes action. Qiushui was stunned for a moment when she looked at the familiar back, and then she couldn't help shouting, "Grandpa!" The black shadow that jumped down from the upstairs looked back at her, nodded, but didn't say anything. In fact, as an ordinary zombie, it is good to be able to keep his movements in front of the level 3 zombies. Just look at the other zombies, they have already been controlled by the big fish. The masked man sneered, "I didn't expect there are still fish that slip through the net. I really don't know how you did it." As he said, he drew his bow and arrow and aimed at Qiushui. He had seen this woman's skills before, and he would not send himself. Seeing the masked man's movements, although he was anxious, Qiushui's grandfather did not dare to move. Now all his energy is used to fight the big fish. What's more, once he runs to Qiushui's side, maybe the big fish will follow him, and Qiushui will be in more danger at that time. Qiushui completely ignored the masked man, gritted her teeth, and wanted to speed up the box. As long as the box is opened, the big fish will definitely focus on her, and then Grandpa will be safe. With a whoosh, the sharp arrow shot straight at Qiushui, and the arrowhead was still black, stained with zombie virus. Once hit by the arrow, she will definitely become a zombie. Qiushui's grandfather was anxious and also strange. Qiushui was only wearing a thin training suit today. If she wore more clothes, she might be able to block the arrow. The masked man raised his mouth with a smile in his eyes. He seemed to have seen the sharp arrow inserted into Qiushui's body, and Qiushui would soon become a zombie. In order not to kill her with one blow, he did not aim at Qiushui's vitals. What a pity. It is more exciting to aim at the vitals, and there is more pleasure of hunting. The sharp arrow passed through the rain curtain, and in a blink of an eye it came in front of Qiushui, and then shot into her body. However, the sharp arrow did not penetrate, but fell directly to the ground, as if it was blocked by something. The masked man was shocked. How could it be? Just like the previous zombie, I can't shoot into her, but she is obviously a human. When Qiushui's grandfather saw this scene, he was relieved. He thought to himself, it seems that the boy didn't lie to me. In this case, I must buy enough time for Zilan. Just at this moment, the big fish crawled in front of him, and its two big red eyes looked at him like car lights. Then, it opened its big mouth, ready to swallow the zombie in front of it. He twisted his body with difficulty, then lowered his waist, and took a horse stance. Then he took a step forward, and his shoulder pushed forward with a step, hitting the upper lip of the big fish hard, knocking the big fish slightly up. Then, he bent his right hand, and his two arms formed a triangle. At the same time, he exerted force on his feet and jumped up. With a bang, his elbow hit the upper lip of the big fish again. These two consecutive hits directly knocked the big fish away, and it turned several times in the air, before falling to the ground. During this period, the big fish's breath was unstable and the suppression power weakened. Qiushui felt that her body could resume movement, so she took the opportunity to take out the glass box in her pocket, and then ran to her grandfather's side. "Grandpa, let's go quickly. As long as we leave here, we will be safe." Grandpa stretched out his left hand and touched Qiushui's head. "Go quickly, I will buy you time. In the future, you must live well and be with Zilan. She will only have you as a relative in the future." Qiushui shook her head repeatedly. "No, we must go together." Grandpa pulled the corners of his mouth with difficulty, but he couldn't make a smile. "Even if I go with you, it won't take long for me to completely lose my mind. What's the difference between that and death? Now at least I can do something for you. I'm very satisfied. You listen to me. Go quickly. Don't let my efforts go in vain." Hearing this, Qiushui gritted her teeth, looked back every 3 steps and walked forward, and then ran faster and faster. The rain slid down her face, and for a moment she couldn't tell whether it was rain or tears. Grandpa watched Qiushui leave, and nodded with relief. He raised his right hand, and looked at it again. "This physical fitness is too poor, otherwise I really want to have a good fight." When his right hand hit the big fish, it was pierced by the big fish's teeth that were like sharp blades, and the black liquid on it was flowing down with the rain. The masked man watched Qiushui escape and was immediately furious, but he didn't dare to chase her, so he shouted to the big fish, "Hurry up." After the big fish fell to the ground, it was a little confused for a while. After turning over with difficulty, it realized that it had just been beaten by an ordinary zombie, and it was in its home court. Fortunately, no other zombies saw it, otherwise it would be a big loss of face. So, the big fish crawled towards Qiushui's grandfather again, but this time it was aggressive and crawled faster. There was a pa sound of water splashing behind him. Qiushui couldn't help but look back, only to see that the big fish was getting closer and closer to Grandpa. The next second, Grandpa also rushed forward, his body running like a tiger. Then, he suddenly jumped up from the spot, opened the 5 fingers of his right hand, and slapped the big fish on the head. With a snap, everything seemed to freeze. If a person was slapped like this, his skull might be shattered. However, the opponent was a zombie, and it was a level 3 zombie. The physical difference between the two sides was too big. The big fish was unharmed, a trace of contempt flashed in its eyes, and then the fish head turned and swung its body at the same time. The fish fins brushed through the rain curtain, causing the rain in that place to stop for a short time. Then, Qiushui's grandfather's head flew up, and black liquid gushed out of his body. Qiushui's eyes were red when she saw this scene, but she remembered her mission and continued to run. Qiushui's grandfather turned his head in the air, looked at Qiushui who was running farther and farther, opened his mouth, and from the shape of his mouth, it could be seen that he said the 2 words run. The next second, the big fish's mouth suddenly opened, swallowing the head and the body together. The masked man walked to the big fish and pointed at Qiushui. "Go chase her, don't let her run away." The big fish's eyes looked at the zombies on both sides. It was better to chase the zombies that were already in its mouth. It was too strenuous to chase a human. Qiushui looked at the big fish, then opened the glass box. A foul smell floated out of the box, almost making her faint even in the rain. She held the box and looked at the big fish in the distance. Since she couldn't take revenge herself, she would lure the big fish over and let someone capable kill it. Chapter 138, The Road to Survival. The moment Qiushui opened the box, the big fish suddenly turned its head and looked over. The fish's eyes opened as wide as possible, as if it saw something very attractive. The masked man couldn't help but feel a little strange when he saw the big fish like this. The big fish had never been like this before, and this was the first time. The next second, the big fish directly abandoned the zombies next to it and rushed towards the direction where Qiushui left, slapping the ground. The masked man hurriedly shouted, "Don't leave, come back." But the big fish seemed not to hear it. The masked man looked at the zombies that began to move slowly on both sides, thought about it, and did not follow them, but ran back to the vegetable market. Once the big fish left, these zombies would continue to move, and then he, an ordinary person, would definitely be in danger. Moreover, although he didn't know, he could guess that the big fish was led over by the woman just now. Since the other party dared to do such a thing, he must be very sure, and he would naturally not go over like the brainless fish. Besides, if the big fish is not dead, it will definitely come back. Qiushui heard the sound of the big fish crawling, and the black shadow was getting closer and closer, and she knew that the zombie virus was indeed effective. She didn't bother to think too much, and rushed forward quickly. She couldn't fall here. Once she was eaten by the big fish, all her grandfather's efforts would be in vain. Even if she died, she had to lead the big fish over. Under the seafood restaurant, he put down the high-powered telescope. It's a pity for Grandpa Qiushui. Just with the body of an ordinary zombie, he can resist level 3 zombies. And when he exerted force, he even cracked the ground. With such a strong physical fitness and explosive power, he must have been a martial arts master before. Wang Qiushui was silent for a while. "Suddenly I feel that we are too bad. If we hadn't found him, he wouldn't have died." He shook his head and said nothing more. Wang Qiushui continued to watch Qiushui running, and the big fish was gradually closing in on her. "Don't we really need to go over to help? If she dies, her grandfather's efforts will be in vain." He sighed. "We can't go over here. This is the best position. Once we go over here, it will be difficult to carry out the subsequent plan, and it may even kill all of us." Wang Qiushui nodded. After all, they are facing to level 3 zombies this time, and they can't make any mistakes, otherwise they will be fatal in a minute. Qiushui ran forward desperately, but the pa sound behind her was getting closer and closer. She gritted her teeth, and her muscles were tense, taking the biggest steps every time. She knew that the clothes and shoes on her body made her much faster than before. But even so, it still couldn't stop the big fish from approaching her. A trace of despair flashed through her heart. Could it be that she really couldn't do it? At this time, there was a bang behind her. She looked back. The big fish actually flew up, and its entire head crashed directly towards him, while its mouth opened wide, revealing rows of sharp teeth. A trace of anxiety flashed in Wang Qiushui's eyes. Oh no, something's going to happen. When the big fish saw that the distance between the two sides was about the same, it actually jumped up directly. "I didn't see it use this trick just now," he sighed. "These high-level zombies are very smart, so they naturally won't use their ultimate moves right away. However, whether Qiushui will be in trouble depends on herself." Wang Qiushui was surprised. She is not a zombie. Even if she is not hit to death, she will be bitten to death, right? He smiled. "You will know when you see it." Qiushui's eyes were also desperate, but she did not give up. She jumped up directly. As long as she could create a time difference with the big fish, it would be fine. The big fish was originally aiming at her running on the ground, and the direction was fixed. If she jumped up, as long as she controlled it well, she could just avoid the attack. Then she would land on the big fish's head and continue running forward. Wang Qiushui saw Qiushui's reaction through the telescope and couldn't help but sigh. "Well done. You are indeed a kung fu master. Your reaction speed is different. And you dare to use this method. You can really be said to be a skilled person with great courage." He frowned slightly, but didn't speak. Because his intuition told him that a level 3 zombie couldn't just have such simple moves. Sure enough, the next second, Wang Qiushui exclaimed, "What is that?" When Qiushui jumped, her whole body was facing the big fish, because she needed to adjust her body according to the opponent's position. Of course, it was just a simple adjustment, such as retracting her feet and hands, so as not to be bitten by the big fish. It was not the kind of thing that could change the direction of the body at will without support in the air. At this time, she suddenly saw that the big fish did not crash down in the original direction. Instead, it twisted its body and swung its tail as if it was swimming in the water. The whole body adjusted its direction and aimed directly at her in the air, opening its mouth wide to bite her. He sighed. "I finally know why this big fish came out when it rained." Wang Qiushui asked quickly. "Why?" He guessed. Judging from its movements just now, it is very likely that it can adjust its direction freely in the rain, just like it is in the water. It is even possible that it cannot leave the water at all, so it was responsible for luring before, and the masked man helped it hunt zombies. Wang Qiushui exclaimed, "It is raining so hard now, wouldn't it be like a fish in water?" So, Qiushui is really finished this time. He shook his head. "Let's wait and see." Qiushui was in the air, and there was no place to leverage, let alone avoid this attack. This time, there was real despair in her eyes. The rain hit her training clothes, but it didn't get the clothes wet, and she didn't know what material the cloth was made of. Looking at the training clothes, her thoughts drifted back to her childhood. At that time, Grandpa taught her kung fu step by step, and at the same time taught her, the spirit of our Bajikwan can be summed up in only 16 words. Be loyal and brave, use your body as a shield, sacrifice yourself, and take the lead in times of danger. In the future, you must always remember these 16 words. The scenes of the past flashed before her eyes, and she showed a bitter smile. She used to hear people say that when a person is dying, his past life will flash in front of him like a revolving lantern. It seems that she will die this time. Grandpa has always remembered these 16 words, so he protected the two sisters so well. Even at the last moment, he used himself as a shield to protect her. A gleam of light flashed in her eyes. Use your body as a shield. At this time, the big fish's mouth had come in front of her, and it was about to bite. Chapter 139. Using your body as a shield. Wang Qiushui looked through the telescope and saw Qiuzilan's body, which seemed to be frozen in the air, and the big fish with its mouth open and sharp teeth. A trace of pity flashed in her eyes, and she looked at Wending. If she dies, our plan will fail. Why don't we save her first? He shook his head and continued to watch the development of the situation through the telescope. Wang Qiushui sighed and picked up the telescope to look over. Level 2 armor can withstand the attacks of zombies of level 2 and below. They don't know what will happen after being attacked by level 3 zombies. Moreover, with Qiuzilan's body as an ordinary person, it is estimated that she will not be able to get any good. However, as long as Qiuzilan still has a breath at that time, she will definitely rush over to save Qiuzilan. The big fish's target is the zombie virus, not Qiuzilan, so it should not care. The big fish's mouth is getting closer and closer to Qiuzilan, and a trace of pride flashed in its eyes, as if it will soon be able to eat the delicious food. In Qiuzilan's current state, it is almost impossible for her to escape. At this time, something strange happened. Qiuzilan kicked out and kicked at the mouth of the big fish. Although this kick did not hurt the big fish, it made her body adjust a little and escape from the abyss of the big fish. Qiuzilan had a strange feeling in her heart, as if the kick just now was the most perfect kick she could make at the moment. Then, she remembered the shaping in the martial arts shoes. This should be the special effect of shaping, with a 20% chance of kicking a perfect kick. And this perfect kick can save her life at this time. Wang Qiushui looked at the kick and couldn't help shouting, "This kick is good." The big fish was also annoyed when he saw the duck that was about to be in his mouth fly away. He turned his head slightly and hit Qiuzilan directly. With a bang, Qiuzilan's body flew out like a bullet. After landing, it rubbed on the ground for more than 10 meters before stopping. Wang Qiushui's shout was stuck in his throat, and he didn't know what to do for a while. She looked at Wending again. Qiuzilan was hit like that. She must be dead. Should we go and collect her body? He was still looking through the telescope and shook his head. No need. The next second, Qiuzilan, who should have been dead, stood up again. She held the open glass box in her hands and rushed forward. At first, her steps were a little staggering, but later she ran faster and faster until she recovered her original speed. However, blood kept flowing from the corners of her mouth, and it was obvious that she was seriously injured. Wang Qiushui was completely stunned. Is this her last breath? She has come to this point, and she still wants to keep running forward? He smiled. She is not having a last breath. Wang Qiushui looked at him. How can you be so unsympathetic? You are still laughing at her, even though she is like this? Moreover, after being hit by a level 3 zombie and flying so far, her internal organs must have been shattered. Look at her running and spitting out blood. What else could it be but a last breath? He was helpless and was suddenly criticized, so he had to explain. She is really not having a last breath, and her injuries are not serious. If her internal organs were shattered, let alone a last breath, she would not be able to run, even if she was injected with adrenaline. What's more, she is running faster and faster, so it is obviously not a big problem. Wang Qiushui was surprised. She was hit so hard, how could she be fine? Could it be that the physical fitness of martial arts practitioners is really much better than that of ordinary people? He shook his head. It's not that the physical fitness is good, she just remembered it. Wang Qiushui asked curiously, remembered what? He explained, I remember her armor has a special effect called use your body as a shield. Wang Qiushui looked at him. Use your body as a shield? What special effect is that? He smiled. It says in the introduction that it can form a layer of shield outside the body to resist the attacks of zombies of level 2+1 and below, and it can only take effect once a day. In other words, when she recites use your body as a shield, she can resist the attack of a level 3 zombie once. I guess that too is the equipment level, and it should change as the level increases in the future. Wang Qiushui suddenly realized, then this special effect is really good. However, she has used it for the only time. What should she do next? He sighed. The impact of the big fish just now has pushed her out a long distance. Whether she can run away next depends on her luck. After all, her body will definitely not be able to withstand any subsequent attacks. Hearing this, Wang Qiushui picked up the telescope again and secretly cheered for Qiushui. The big fish knocked Qiushui out just to vent its anger, because it could not eat the zombie virus. However, it soon discovered that when Qiushui flew out, the zombie virus gradually moved away from it. It quickly chased after her, but because the distance between the two sides was too far, it took some time to catch up. He saw that the time was almost up, and then said to Wang Qiushui, "It's our turn." Wang Qiushui handed him the telescope, nodded, and then transformed. As soon as he transformed, Wang Qiushui's eyes became blurred, and he couldn't help but walk forward, his nostrils flaring. "This smells so good, I want to eat it." He didn't expect that the effect of the zombie virus was even stronger than before. No wonder the big fish would chase Qiushui relentlessly. He quickly took over Wang Qiushui's body and sent his main body to the roof. The main body took a piece of invisible cloth on the roof and hid. He didn't see Qiushui's figure, so he should have hidden long ago. Then, Wang Qiushui quickly returned to the ground, stretched out his arms, and went straight to Qiushui who was running. Qiushui heard a pop sound from behind her again while running wildly. She looked back and saw that the big fish had jumped up again and was rushing towards her. Complete despair flashed in her eyes. She had used up her shield just now. This time, no matter how perfect her kick was, it couldn't save her. Not to mention a direct collision. Even if she was lightly scraped, her body probably couldn't bear it. At this time, she suddenly found that her body was caught by something, and then moved forward quickly, while the big fish was getting farther and farther away from her. She looked back and saw that she had a pair of arms, and the owner of the arms was Wang Qiushui, who had turned into a zombie. Wang Qiushui dragged her in front of him and said, "Give me the box, and then you hide next to it first. I'll come back to pick you up later." Qiushui handed over the box blankly and rushed to the seafood restaurant next to her. Wang Qiushui held the glass box in one hand and swung the hammer of the earth in the other and began to run wildly towards the high-speed rail. Chapter 140 Planned Success. However, Wang Qiushui did not run far before she stopped. For safety reasons, she did not want to get in close contact with the high-speed rail zombies. After all, she knew nothing about the high-speed rail zombies. Judging from the big fish just now, the level 3 zombies must have a lot of tricks up their sleeves. She held the glass box in one hand and swung the hammer of the earth in the other, then stretched it out. With a bang, the hammer of the earth hit the glass of the high-speed rail. However, it was useless, not to mention cracking. There was not even a trace. She then hit it several more times, but it still had no effect. Just as she was about to hit the next hammer, a pair of red eyes suddenly appeared behind the window, just looking at her quietly. The terrifying breath of the level 3 zombies came over her, and her heart tightened. At the same time, the pa-pa-pa sound of the big fish behind her was also approaching quickly. The big fish's target is the zombie virus, so even if Qiushui disappeared, it would still follow the smell of the zombie virus to find her. If she can't get away quickly, she will either be killed by the big fish, or she would be attacked by 2 level 3 zombies, and then she would die even more miserably. Looking at the high-speed train, she suddenly remembered the soul-breaking sword. So, she switched to the soul-breaking sword form and slashed the body of the high-speed train. The soul-breaking sword cut in easily, just like cutting a cake, gently pulling it down and cutting a crack in the body of the train. She was about to continue cutting, but she saw 2 thick fingers buckled out of the crack. Then, the 2 fingers exerted force, and with a rip, the crack was directly torn open. Behind the crack was a strong zombie. However, because the zombie was too strong, and it was too dark inside the high-speed train, it was not clear what the zombie looked like. Since the high-speed train zombie had taken action, Wang Qiushui was relieved. She put the glass box directly on the ground, then retracted her arm, and ran to the seafood restaurant. Then, she carried Qiushui to the roof. During this process, Daoyu also rushed over, but he just glanced at the 2 of them, and rushed to the glass box on the ground. At the same time, a huge zombie fell directly from the high-speed train. When it landed, it made a loud bang sound, and cracked the ground. After the high-speed train zombie landed, it did not stop at all, and rushed to the glass box. After the 2 of them returned to the roof safely, he directly cancelled Wang Qiushui's transformation. Then he handed the paparazzi suits to the two of them, and also handed Qiushui a healing medicine. Take this, your injuries will heal. We will talk about the rest later, so as not to attract the attention of the zombies below. After that, he directly put on the invisible cloth and disappeared. Wang Qiushui also put on the invisible cloth, and looked through the telescope. She is not a zombie now, so she will not be attracted by the zombie virus below. Qiushui took the medicine with a complicated expression, and finally ate it, and then hid like them. She did not see Zillion's figure, she should have hidden like them. After their breath disappeared, the two level 3 zombies finally met each other. Although the high-speed rail zombie was only 3 meters tall, his body was particularly strong, and his skin surface was shining with a metallic luster, which looked very hard. In addition, his body was covered with arms on both sides, and his entire upper body was covered with faces. The mouths and eyes of those faces were still moving, as if they were alive, which looked particularly creepy. The big fish was much larger than the high-speed rail zombie, and it was obviously more flexible in the rain. Coupled with the scales on his body, that looked like iron armor, as well as sharp teeth and fins, it was obviously not easy to mess with. Wang Qiushui lifted the invisibility cloth, and whispered in the direction where he was, "Who do you think will win? That high-speed train zombie looks so disgusting. I'm about to get intensive phobia when I see it." Fortunately, he didn't come down to find us before. He also lifted the invisibility cloth and responded, "It's hard to say now. I don't know what trump cards they each have. However, their respective strengths should be similar, otherwise one of them would have escaped long ago. Now is just right. If they fight directly, we will benefit at that time." Wang Qiushui noticed that their focus at this time was not on the zombie virus, but on each other. They are not interested in the zombie virus on the ground. Will they fight? He smiled. There can't be two tigers in one mountain. Besides, the zombie upgrades either by killing a certain number of zombies of the same level, or by swallowing a sufficient amount of zombie virus. So, since they have met, they will definitely fight. At this time, running away is cowardly, and it is easy to expose weaknesses to the other party. Wang Qiushui nodded and hid his figure again to watch. I have to say, this high-powered telescope is really useful. They were lying on the rooftop, and they could see through the wall directly to the two level 3 zombies below. After a brief stalemate, they rushed towards each other at the same time. Although the high-speed rail zombie has many arms, it only has 2 feet, probably to maintain its body balance. If it had a bunch of feet, it would not know which direction to walk. However, those 2 feet were particularly strong, like 2 pillars, which directly tore the pants and revealed the knotted muscles inside. When it ran and stepped on the ground, it made a booming sound. Coupled with its huge body, it was like a human tank rushing forward. The big fish still crawled over and did not directly use a jump collision, probably preparing to keep a trick. But its body size is enough to crush the high-speed rail zombie, so the result of this collision is really hard to say. Soon, the two met together. The big fish opened its mouth and bit the high-speed rail zombie. With its guillotine-like teeth, it could probably bite off the upper body of the high-speed rail zombie with one bite. The high-speed rail zombie used its densely packed arms to support the big fish's mouth with difficulty, preventing it from closing its mouth. The remaining arms on both sides clenched their fists and punched the big fish's head. Even the mouth on his body bit the big fish, but it didn't bite anything off. The big fish's mouth was imprisoned and couldn't close. When it wanted to retreat, it was caught again and couldn't retreat. In addition, its head was hit hard by the high-speed rail zombie's fists, and it didn't know how many iron fists it had received. Although it didn't hurt it had never suffered such anger since it became a zombie. The ordinary zombie who did this before had already entered its stomach. Chapter 141, Winners and Losers. The fins of the big fish swiped towards the high-speed rail zombie. Qiushui bit her lips tightly, and her knuckles turned white, because she was holding the invisible cloth too hard. She seemed to see the scene of her grandfather's head being chopped off again. He and Wang Qiushui wanted to know whether the big fish's attack would work. After all, this attack might determine the outcome of the next battle, and what kind of opponent they would face. The high-speed rail zombie naturally saw the fins slashing towards him, like two sharp swords. However, he just raised one hand on each side, to block the sides of his body. The next second, the fins touched the arms, but there was a dang sound, like two pieces of metal colliding together. A trace of astonishment flashed in the big fish's eyes, as if it didn't expect the opponent's body to be so hard that it could block its attack. Then, it swung its tail, ready to swing its tail. At this time, the high-speed rail zombie's eyes condensed, and then all the arms exerted force together, and the muscles on them were directly exposed. However, he knew very well that he could not tear the big fish in half from its mouth just by the strength of his arms. So, his body suddenly fell backwards, and the big fish was pulled along with it. Then, he kicked the big fish in the belly. The big fish flew out, sliding on the ground for a long distance before stopping, and the road was plowed by the big fish. However, the big fish jumped on the ground twice, quickly adjusted its body, and looked at the high-speed rail zombie again, with red light flashing in its eyes. Obviously, the previous attack did not cause any harm to it. The high-speed rail zombie looked at his arms. The two arms that were used to block the fish fins just now were not completely intact. A slight scratch could be seen on them. However, he had so many arms, let alone just scratches. Even if two hands were cut off, it would not have much impact. Wang Qiushui lifted the invisible cloth and whispered, "These two level 3 zombies are too perverted. I wonder what will happen when I reach level 3. He laughed and said, "Do you want to be perverted too?" Wang Qiushui punched him directly. "You are the perverted one." The big fish rushed towards the high-speed rail zombie again with a pa-pa-pa sound, using exactly the same moves as before. The high-speed rail zombie directly put all his arms in front of him to form a wall. In addition, his legs stood firmly on the ground and took a horse stance. It seemed that he was ready to withstand the big fish's attack. The big fish rushed forward all the way, and the speed was getting faster and faster. However, when it was about to reach the high-speed rail zombie, its fin slammed the ground, splashing water, and the fish body flew up. However, this jump directly changed the original attack direction. The whole body flew above the high-speed rail zombie, and the fish head also hit the high-speed rail zombie's head. The high-speed train zombie's arms were all in front of him, and the upper part was just a relatively weak position. It seems that this big fish can become a level 3 zombie, and it really has something. It actually knows how to attack the opponent's weak points. Seeing this, the high-speed train zombie quickly moved his palm up and blocked the upper part, which happened to be the position where the big fish attacked. It seems that he was also prepared. He shook his head. This high-speed train zombie is going to suffer. Wang Qiushui showed his head from the side. Why? He did not answer. The next second, the fish head hit the high-speed train zombie's arm hard, making a dang sound. However, due to the wrong angle, and the big fish had the power to rush forward, the high-speed train zombie was just hasty after all. A crack sounded, and the high-speed train zombie's arm blocking the upper part was directly broken, and the body was knocked back several steps in a row. However, this is not the end. The big fish did not fall after the collision. Its double fins and tail swung in the air, as if it was swimming in the water, and followed the high-speed train zombie closely. Since the high-speed train zombie lost its balance when it retreated, it was difficult for it to adjust for a while, let alone defend itself. Then, the big fish swung its tail. With a snap, the big fish's tail whipped the high-speed train zombie like a whip, and the high-speed train zombie flew out. Wang Qiushui opened his mouth slightly. "These two are too scary. Who do you think will win?" He pondered for a moment. "I actually hope that the big fish will win. After all, the big fish is just a fish, and its IQ is limited. The high-speed train zombie is a human after all, and its IQ is much higher. And looking at his actions just now, it is obvious that he has kung fu skills. This opponent is not easy to deal with." Wang Qiushui nodded in agreement. The high-speed train zombie quickly stood up again. The big fish's attack not only made his arms useless, but also damaged his internal organs. Black liquid kept flowing out of the corners of his mouth. The big fish swam happily in the air and did not fall to the ground. It was obviously very happy to be able to avenge the revenge just now. At this time, the high-speed train zombie made an unexpected move. He just tore off the broken arm and put it to the mouth on the body. Then, countless mouths started to bite it together. Each bite could bite off a piece of meat, and soon those arms were devoured. While biting, the black liquid in the mouth was washed away by the rain. The black liquid flowing out of the wound, where the arm was broken, was also washed away by the rain and fell to the ground. The big fish stopped swimming at this time and looked at the high-speed rail zombie with a flash of desire in its eyes. Obviously, these black liquids were very attractive to it. Wang Qiushui looked at this scene and felt a chill. Has he given up treatment? Or does he think that those broken arms will affect his movements, so he just dismantles them first and eats them to replenish his energy? He shook his head. I don't think it's that simple. If he does this, he will only cause more wounds to himself. The wounds are not covered by skin, and the defense is lower, which will become a weakness. Those mouths ate the arms and bones, but they were still not satisfied. The mouth opened wide and began to drink rainwater. Wang Qiushui said quickly, I know this. He must want to absorb the zombie virus in the rain. However, there are not many zombie viruses in the rain. How long will it take him to drink it? He thought for a while. Maybe he is thirsty after eating so much. Wang Qiushui looked at him speechlessly. I don't know what to say about your speculation. At this time, the big fish could no longer bear it and swam towards the high-speed rail zombie in midair. The arm of the high-speed rail zombie was previously disabled by it, and later it was dismantled by itself. There was no arm blocking it, so the top of the high-speed rail zombie was definitely the weakest at this time. Chapter 142 High-Speed Railway Zombies. The high-speed rail zombie had its head down at first, but when it sensed the breath of the big fish approaching, it suddenly raised its head, and a glimmer of red light flashed in its eyes. He had just suffered a great loss at the hands of this big fish, and now the big fish wanted to take advantage of him. The big fish naturally saw the look in the high-speed rail zombie's eyes, but it was not afraid at all. Now the other party was injured, but it was not, and the balance of victory was tilting towards it. As long as it could eat the zombie in front of it, it would not be far from being promoted to the next level. Thinking of this, it swam faster. Wang Qiushui looked at the high-speed rail zombie who neither dodged nor defended, and couldn't help asking, did he really give up treatment? If I had known that level 3 zombies were so easy to kill, I would have gone. Give him 2 hammers, break his hands, and then he would die obediently like now. He did not answer, but continued to look down. He did not believe that the high-speed rail zombie would be defeated so easily. After all, the high-speed rail zombies survived in a sealed environment like the high-speed rail. I don't know how many battles they have experienced and how many opponents they have killed before they were promoted to level 3 step by step. Without strong willpower, it would be impossible to survive until now. The big fish is more likely to be fed by the masked man. It must have hunted a lot of zombies to grow to level 3. Therefore, the big fish did not hurt the masked man, but was obedient to him. Perhaps, in its mind, if it killed the masked man, it would have nothing to eat. So there is no need to talk about the gap between the two sides. The combat experience alone is incomparable. The big fish swam faster and faster, as if it was not in the air, but in the water, and it only needed to swing its body to speed up. It aimed its hard fish head at the high-speed rail zombie and hit it directly. The tail was accumulating power at the back, obviously wanting to give the high-speed rail zombie a 2-hit combo. The next second, the fish head was about to hit the high-speed rail zombie, and it was about to cause serious damage. If it was hit by the fish tail on this basis, it would be disabled if not dead. Suddenly, something was squirming at the wound of the zombie. Then, small buds emerged from the wound. Then, just like time-lapse photography, the granulation quickly grew and turned into the same big hands as before. However, these hands looked obviously tenderer. A trace of panic flashed in the eyes of the big fish. It didn't expect that the high-speed rail zombie still had such a trick. Its tail swung, the fish head turned, and it wanted to escape. The newly grown hands of the high-speed rail zombie were like insignificant consumables, and it rushed to meet the fish head regardless. Although the big fish was turning urgently, the previous impact force was still there. Therefore, there was only a click sound, and the high-speed rail zombie's arms broke a lot again. However, this time, his arms firmly grasped the fish head before breaking. Some even buckled directly on the fish scales. Anyway, they didn't let go. The big fish was suddenly held by so many hands, and couldn't get rid of it at all. He was so anxious that he immediately did a dragon tail swing. However, the high-speed rail zombie was well prepared. All his hands were on the fish head at the same time, and then he threw it back hard with a German back throw. The whole body of the high-speed train zombie was in the shape of an arch bridge, revealing explosive muscles, and it was still holding the head of the big fish in its hand. The whole head of the big fish was buried in the ground, and the dragon's tail was naturally broken. The tail was drooping, and it was unknown whether it was dead or alive. Wang Qiushui was stunned. This is too scary. I'm not afraid of the high level of zombies, but I'm afraid that zombies can fight. He laughed. Didn't you just say that you were going to deal with him? Wang Qiushui waved his hands repeatedly. Forget it. I guess even if I reach level 3 and have a set of magic clothes, it won't be that easy to beat him. He smiled, didn't continue, and observed the high-speed train zombie again. After the high-speed train zombie killed the big fish with one blow, it did not pursue the victory, but dismantled the disabled arms again, and started eating them again. However, this time, his arms grew much slower, and the big fish has not moved since it was buried, and I don't know if it is really dead. Wang Qiushui was anxious watching from above. At this time, we should take advantage of the victory and beat the drowning dog. No, the drowning fish. Why does he still have the mind to eat his own hand? He sighed. Since he didn't take advantage of the victory, it means that there are some things happening that we don't know. For example, the fish is not only not dead, but may not even have its skin broken, and is actually waiting for him to get close. Or, if he doesn't eat his hand, he won't be able to deal with the next situation, and his strength may even be greatly weakened. Wang Qiushui nodded, and didn't dare to talk nonsense. After all, judging from the situation just now, these two guys are indeed not so easy to die. Moreover, one is more insidious than the other, and every time, when they think they are going to die, they can kill each other. Until the high-speed rail zombie grew a new hand, the big fish still didn't move, letting the rain wash over it. If you don't know, you might really think it's a dead fish. The high-speed rail zombie naturally didn't walk up rashly, but walked to the side of the big fish, stretched out his two hands, and held the tail of the fish. At the same time, his body also avoided the tail fin. He did not forget that the fin of this big fish was very sharp. If he was cut by the tail fin, it might be split in half. Even at this time, the big fish still did not move. Then, the high-speed rail zombie suddenly exerted force, pulled the big fish out of the ground, and then smashed it to the ground. With a loud bang, the big fish fell to the ground, cracking the surrounding ground. Wang Qiushui rubbed his ears. It was so loud that it almost deafened my ears. After being hit like this, there is no movement. It should be really dead. If it is pretending, it doesn't need to take such a hard hit. Even if it was fine before, it will be in trouble after this hit. He shook his head. Do you remember where we should hit when we kill zombies? Wang Qiushui was stunned for a moment and answered directly, the head. As long as the head is cut off, the zombie will die. After that, she reacted quickly and looked at the big fish. Sure enough, the big fish was lying on the ground, its head still intact. Nothing was wrong, not even a scratch could be seen. After 2 consecutive heavy attacks, it didn't even break its skin. If it was said that it was all internal injuries, no one would believe it. The high-speed rail zombie naturally didn't believe it either, and grabbed the big fish and swung it, smashing it to the ground with a bang bang bang, cracking the ground next to it. At this time, the big fish still didn't move, as if it was really dead. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 143 Dying Fish. The high-speed train zombie still had doubts in his eyes, and he grabbed the big fish and swung it again. Finally, during one of the swings, the fish fin was a little close to the high-speed train zombie. The big fish swung its fins violently, ready to cut the high-speed train zombie in half. Although the high-speed train zombie had always been on guard, it had been hit for so long that its vigilance was no longer so strong. So, in a hurry, it could only stretch out its arms to block in front of itself. A cold light flashed at the edge of the fish fin, crossing the high-speed train zombie's arm. Black liquid gushed out from the broken hands, and each broken hand fell from the air. However, because most of the power was blocked by these arms, the fish fins did not cut the high-speed train zombie in half, but only left a shallow scratch on it. The high-speed train zombie quickly stretched out the remaining hands to catch the broken hands. The big fish bent its body, caught the power of its waist, and swung it upwards, and at the same time opened its mouth and swallowed several broken hands. Then, its tail slapped the high-speed train zombie, trying to do some more damage. The high-speed train zombie saw that a lot of his broken hand had been eaten by the other party, and in a rage, he kicked the fish, kicking the big fish away. After the big fish landed, it turned its head and looked at the high-speed train zombie, smacking its lips from time to time, looking at the high-speed train zombie with eyes like it was sizing up its prey. The high-speed train zombie took advantage of the big fish not attacking and quickly ate the broken hand to return to its original state. Wang Qiushui was horrified by what he saw. This is too scary. He endured for so long just to cut off a few of his opponent's hands. Although he ate them, that little bit of energy is not enough to replenish the consumption of being beaten. He shook his head. Look at that high-speed rail zombie. Wang Qiushui looked over after hearing this and asked uncertainly after a while. The hands of that high-speed rail zombie seemed to have become one size smaller. He nodded. Yes, so he ate his own severed hands before, which should be the same as the controlled zombies we encountered in that community. He can regenerate severed limbs in that way. However, there is a prerequisite, that is, there is enough energy. If there is not enough energy, they will become smaller and smaller, and finally they will not grow back. Wang Qiushui sighed. He still has so many hands on his body. It seems that this will be a protracted battle. By the way, the first time, didn't the fish fin only cut hands? How come the fish fin could cut off so many hands just now? He replied, just now, there was a flash of light on the edge of the fish fin. It should be one of its characteristics, which can make the fish fin sharper. Wang Qiushui nodded. Look, the big fish is moving again. Sure enough, the big fish launched an attack again, perhaps because it had tasted the sweetness just now. The high-speed rail zombie moved its newly grown hands, and a trace of anger flashed in its eyes. It had just suffered such a big loss from this big fish, and since the fight, it seemed that he had not gained any advantage. The big fish still used its usual moves, charging with its head, and directly crashed into the high-speed rail zombie. But this time, its mouth was wide open, and it seemed that it was ready to bite whatever it caught. The high-speed rail zombie bent its front legs, stood on its hind legs, and leaned forward. The arms on both sides were all open, like a huge spider spirit. The big fish did not intend to change its offensive, and seemed to be ready to respond to changes with the same attitude, and still crashed straight in. However, its body was hard and resistant to beating, so there was no problem. However, just when the big fish was about to hit the high-speed rail zombie, the high-speed rail zombie suddenly jumped up and jumped directly onto the top of the big fish. The figure of the high-speed rail zombie suddenly disappeared from the sight of the big fish. He thought to himself that something was wrong and quickly swung his body to run away. Suddenly, he was hit on the head with a heavy punch, followed by a series of heavy punches. He looked at the figure of the high-speed rail zombie beating the big fish, and the Allah business involuntarily rang in his mind. The high-speed rail zombie hammered the big fish from the air to the ground, and then hammered the fish's head into the ground. The fish's head was hammered so hard that a huge wound appeared, and black liquid came out. At this time, the high-speed rail zombie was still worried. He learned from the lesson just now, and did not pull the big fish out. Instead, he lay directly on the back of the fish, and continued to hammer the big fish's head with his fists. Wang Qiushui gasped. Hiss, there is a dorsal fin on the back. Is it really okay for him to sit on it like this? He thought for a while. If he lies down like this, the dorsal fin should not be able to open, so there is no need to worry about it being cut. However, I still admire him for having the courage to sit down. Although some things can't be used anymore, they are still a man's dignity, and you have to have them. Wang Qiushui patted him. Pay attention, Zillion is still next to you. However, why do you think he has to lie down? This posture is so awkward, he can just stand and hammer. He shook his head. I don't know, let's wait and see. Soon, they discovered that as time went by, the high-speed rail zombies' hands were actually getting bigger and gradually returned to the same level as before. Wang Qiushui was surprised and asked, "What's going on? Can he recover his energy by hitting the enemy?" He thought about it for a while. "I know. Do you remember that he just ate the broken hand with the mouth on his body and then restored it? He didn't use the mouth on his head to recover twice, so he must have used those mouths to bite the big fish. Then he swallowed the energy of the big fish to replenish himself. This can also explain why he used such an awkward method." Wang Qiushui's face changed. "In this case, the big fish will either be killed by him or eaten by him. Wouldn't we be unable to be the fisherman? Besides, we can't afford to offend such a terrifying zombie." He sighed. "Let's watch first. Don't forget that the big fish didn't even use lure. I don't think it's so easy to kill it. If the big fish is really dead, we will run away and leave this place while the invisible cloth is not invalid. Such an opponent is too scary." Wang Qiushui nodded in agreement. The next second, the high-speed rail zombie stopped and sat up on the back of the big fish. His hands were covered with black liquid, and his mouth was also covered with black liquid, and some of them were even chewing. His eyes were red, staring at the big fish under him, his eyes full of desire. The big fish looked half dead, and the scales on its body had long been peeled off. It was unknown whether it had been eaten or fell to the ground. The wounds showed signs of being bitten, and black liquid flowed down the fish. The breath was also gradually weakening. Chapter 144 Faking Death. Wang Qiushui opened her mouth and asked in a low voice, "It looks like the big fish is finished. Should we run away?" She really didn't dare to speak as loudly as before, for fear of attracting the attention of the high-speed rail zombie. The high-speed rail zombie is more than a humanoid tank. It is simply a humanoid Gundam, and it can actually beat the big fish that is much larger than itself to death. He frowned and waved his hand. "Let's wait and see." Wang Qiushui didn't say anything after hearing this. She has always been focused on Wending. However, she also felt a little strange that the two sisters Qiushui didn't say a word throughout the whole process, as if they were not here. But she didn't have time to care about so much at this time. If there was any change later, she would take Wending away first. As for the remaining two, she would save them if she could, but there was nothing she could do if she couldn't. After the high-speed rail zombie stood up, in addition to the arms that grew back to their original state, new buds grew between the arms. However, those granulations had just grown out and did not continue to grow. It seemed that they were not getting enough energy. So, the high-speed rail zombie quickly lay down again, hammering the big fish's head. However, those mouths under the invisible body must have continued to gnaw the big fish's body until the big fish was completely devoured. Under the iron fist of the high-speed rail zombie, the wound on the big fish's head became bigger and bigger. In the end, even the bones inside could be seen. The black liquid splashed everywhere, or was washed by the rain and flowed everywhere. I don't know how long it took. The breath of the big fish completely disappeared, and the skull exploded with a boom, leaving only the body that was bitten to pieces. The high-speed rail zombie sat up straight, without any joy of victory, but with a kind of confusion in his eyes, as if he felt something was wrong. Wang Qiushui looked at him carefully, and did not dare to speak. At this time, speaking would be a suicidal act. However, she did not get any response or instructions from him, and suddenly became more anxious. If she hadn't been worried about attracting the attention of the high-speed rail zombie, she would have picked him up and run away. The high-speed rail zombie looked around blankly, and didn't find anything wrong. So he lay down again, but this time he didn't punch again, but directly tore the body of the big fish with his hands, and desperately put it into his mouth. As he moved, the granulations gradually grew larger. At a certain moment, the rain curtain above the high-speed rail zombie's head suddenly paused, as if it was cut open by something. Wang Qiushui, who was still anxiously waiting for his instructions, had his pupils shrank, and didn't care so much, and asked directly, "What's going on?" However, the high-speed rail zombie didn't know whether he had sensed it, or had been on guard. He supported his hand on the body of the big fish, and rolled down from it. The next second, the invisible sharp blade fell on the body of the big fish, directly cutting the body of the big fish in half, and leaving a deep gully on the ground. Then, something even more shocking happened. the body of the big fish suddenly exploded and turned into a pool of black liquid that flowed away with the rain. However, the concentration of this black liquid is obviously not right. It is just a little bit black, just like the black liquid of ordinary zombies diluted countless times with rainwater. Wang Qiushui asked hurriedly, "What's going on?" He shook his head. "You'll know if you watch it." The invisible blade failed to behead the high-speed rail zombie and hit again. Moreover, even in the previous slash, it did not reveal its body shape, as if it was completely integrated into the rain. The high-speed rail zombie stood there alert, constantly turning its body, as if the invisible opponent would always suddenly appear behind him and launch a fatal blow to him. As it turned, the rain curtain was suddenly cut off again, and it was obvious that the invisible blade was unsheathed again. The high-speed rail zombie's body stopped suddenly, and then all the fists swung in that direction. But this blow fell in vain, and the invisible blade did not attack from that side. The high-speed rail zombie secretly thought that it was not good, and quickly retreated, wanting to leave here. At this time, he suddenly felt a chill on his neck and quickly lowered his head. Sure enough, the rain curtain above his head was cut off by the invisible blade. If he had lowered his head a little slower, his head would have been gone. Just when the high-speed rail zombie breathed a sigh of relief, he felt a pain in his body. He looked and saw that several hands on the right side had been cut off at some point and were falling from the air. He quickly reached out and tried to grab the severed hands back. At this moment, the rain curtain in front of him was suddenly stretched open, and then a big mouth with sharp teeth appeared and swallowed the severed hands directly. Seeing this scene, the high-speed rail zombie angrily swung his fist in the direction of the big mouth, but still swung in the air and didn't hit anything. Wang Qiushui looked at the big mouth, stretched out his hand, and pointed in the direction where the big mouth disappeared. Then, that big mouth, isn't it that of the big fish? Or did I see it wrong? He nodded. Yes, it's that big fish for sure. Wang Qiushui asked again, but wasn't its head blown up by the high-speed rail zombie? Moreover, even the body exploded. Why did it appear again now? He thought for a while, it should have faked its death just now, so the high-speed rail zombie didn't feel any improvement when it killed it, so it was a little confused. Moreover, the exploded body just shows that it is not dead. If it was dead, the body would not explode after being chopped. The black liquid that flowed out after the explosion is obviously inconsistent with the virus concentration that a level 3 zombie should have. Wang Qiushui nodded when he heard this. Then the two of them are really evenly matched. They are fighting back and forth, sometimes regenerating broken limbs, sometimes faking death and coming back to life. By the way, do you have your scan turned on? See if you can scan out where it is. If the high-speed rail zombies can't find it, they may be killed by it. Then it will be our turn to take action. He thought it made sense, so he turned on the scan. As soon as the scan was turned on, he was stunned. After a while, Wang Qiushui asked, "How is it? Have you seen where the big fish is?" He looked at Wang Qiushui. "I didn't see where the big fish is, but I know where it hid when I was in the vegetable market before." Wang Qiushui asked curiously, "Where is it hiding?" "It's so big, the largest tank in the vegetable market can't hold it." He shook his head. "Then I don't know, but it must be in the water." Wang Qiushui looked at him strangely. He explained, "Remember that we couldn't scan it in the vegetable market? This is the situation now." Chapter 145 Big Fish Invisible. Wang Qiushui was stunned for a long time before he reacted. "You mean, when it appears in the water, the scan can't scan it?" He nodded. "Anyway, my scan can only see a red dot of a level 3 zombie there, and no trace of the big fish. The big fish seems to have disappeared directly, whether in our field of vision, or in the scanner." Wang Qiushui asked again, "Could it be that your scan level is too low? I remember you haven't upgraded for a long time." He thought for a while. "Well, it's really been a long time since I upgraded. Let's wait and see. If it doesn't work, I'll upgrade it again." Although the scanner can be upgraded unlimitedly, 10 experience points will be deducted each time. He only has 82 experience points left now, and he has to save them to exchange for physical strength and healing medicine to deal with level 3 zombies later, so he can't squander them casually. Moreover, when he upgraded the scanner last time, he only added a function that displayed different dot sizes according to the level. Although this function is quite practical, it also shows that the upgrade of the scanner is random and uncontrollable. With so little experience, he may not be able to upgrade to the function of scanning invisible zombies. Besides, it was hard to say whether the big fish was invisible or had merged with the rain. Wang Qiushui picked up the telescope and looked down again. While the two of them were chatting, the high-speed rail zombie was hit several more times, but because it was well prepared, its hands were not cut off again, and it only had some more scars on its body. Wang Qiushui sighed. Now I just hope that this high-speed rail zombie can hold on for a while and not die so quickly. It would be best if it could deal more damage before it dies. Or, the rain can stop soon. As long as there is no rain, this fish should not be able to be invisible. He nodded and said nothing. The high-speed rail zombie has been beaten all the time, and even a little tired of dealing with it, and there are many more scratches on his body. Because the big fish may have just attacked his front 1 second, and appeared behind him the next second. However, the big fish can only scratch the high-speed rail zombie, but there is no way to kill it completely. As time goes by, the scratches on the high-speed rail zombie are also slowly recovering. Suddenly, after dodging the attack of the big fish, the high-speed train zombie rushed directly to the seafood restaurant. Wang Qiushui was shocked. Could he have discovered us? He smiled. He should know how to deal with the big fish's invisibility. Sure enough, after rushing into the seafood restaurant, the high-speed train zombie turned around and looked outside the door. The muscles of the whole body were tense, ready to burst out the strongest power at any time. The big fish had already gained the upper hand, so when it saw the high-speed train zombie trying to run, it naturally chased after it. However, the high-speed train zombie dodged several attacks. When the high-speed train zombie entered the restaurant, the big fish did not follow in, but stayed outside. Wang Qiushui frowned. Doesn't it want to give up its advantage of stealth? It didn't chase me in. He thought for a moment. There is another possibility. Although it has become a zombie, it is still a fish. Without water, it can't breathe. That's why it came out to look for food today. Wang Qiushui nodded. No wonder. It used to lure zombies over. Even if I went, it wouldn't come out to hunt me directly. But, in this case, wouldn't it be a stalemate? He shook his head. Didn't you just say that it can lure zombies? So I don't think it will last long. Wang Qiushui was puzzled, but its lure at that time didn't have much effect on me, and it would have even less effect on zombies of the same level. He smiled. As long as it has an effect, it doesn't have to be fully utilized. After he finished speaking, the high-speed rail zombie looked dazed and really walked out. However, his steps were very slow and his movements were stiff, as if he was resisting something. Obviously, this lure didn't have much effect on him. Step by step, the high-speed rail zombie approached the door. Wang Qiushui looked down with her eyes wide open, forgetting to breathe. At this time, she prayed in her heart that the high-speed rail zombie would not die so quickly, otherwise this big fish would be difficult to deal with, mainly because the ability to be invisible in the rain was too disgusting. The high-speed rail zombie was getting closer and closer to the door. When it was about to reach the door, the rain curtain was cut off by something. The fish fin with a bright light on the edge was like a sharp blade swinging towards the high-speed rail zombie's neck. It seemed that this time it was a sure death. Suddenly, the confusion in the high-speed rail zombie's eyes disappeared, and the originally stiff movements returned to normal. He stretched out two hands to block the fish fin, to delay a little time, and the remaining hand swung out together and smashed into the rain curtain. With a bang, a huge fish shadow suddenly appeared in the rain curtain that was originally empty. Then it flew backwards and gradually disappeared in the rain curtain. The high-speed train zombie succeeded in one strike, looked at the rain curtain with a solemn look, and then stepped back step by step. He grabbed the two severed hands that were just cut off by the fish fins, stuffed them into his mouth and started eating. Not long after, his severed hands grew out again, but they were obviously a little smaller. At this time, Wending on the rooftop exclaimed in surprise. Huh? Wang Qiushui looked at him quickly. What's wrong? He was afraid that something unexpected had happened and caused the escape to fail. He asked, look at that high-speed train zombie. Has it gotten smaller? Wang Qiushui looked back. It's normal to get smaller. Won't those new hands he just grew also get smaller due to insufficient energy? He shook his head. I'm not talking about his hands. I'm talking about his body size. Wang Qiushui observed carefully for a while. It seems that it has really gotten a little smaller, but it doesn't look too obvious. Why is it so? He pondered for a while. Maybe his huge body is full of energy, or zombie virus. And he wants to regenerate broken limbs, which naturally cannot be done out of thin air, so he needs to consume a certain amount of energy every time. This energy is naturally obtained from his food, or directly from himself. Wang Qiushui reacted. That means, as long as he is injured enough times, he will become smaller and smaller, and may even return to the size of an adult in the end? He nodded. That should be the case, but we need to observe for a while to be sure. Wang Qiushui patted his chest and said, then I feel relieved. As long as he is not killed instantly, he should be able to hold on for a long time. I hope he and Au can fight to a draw. Then it will be my turn to take action. I really want to see their desperate expressions when they are killed by me. Chapter 146 Restaurant Battle. At this time, the big fish appeared at the door again. You can see an obvious outline of a big fish in the rain, but you can't be sure whether it is the real body or other means. The big fish looked in from outside the door, looking at the high-speed rail zombie hiding inside, and a trace of anger flashed in its eyes. It seems that it really can't leave the water, otherwise, with its advantage just now, it would have come in to fight the high-speed rail zombie. The high-speed rail zombie stared at the big fish, ready to take action at any time. Suddenly, the big fish opened its mouth and shot a water arrow at the high-speed rail zombie. The high-speed rail zombie was well prepared and jumped away quickly to avoid the water arrow. The water arrow shot on the wall and directly hit a big hole. Then, continuous water arrows were shot out, chasing the high-speed rail zombie. However, without exception, none of them hit the high-speed rail zombie. Wang Qiushui asked worriedly, if this goes on, will the building collapse before they finish fighting? If we fall down, won't we be caught between two level 3 zombies? He shook his head. Let's see first. If it doesn't work, we'll change places. The big fish failed to hit the high-speed rail zombie at all, and was obviously very angry. Then, it made an unexpected move. The big fish actually stretched out its fin from the rain curtain and into the restaurant. However, the fin is so long, and the high-speed rail zombie is hiding in the innermost part, so it is obviously impossible to hit it. Unless, the fin can be stretched like Wang Qiushui's arm. A trace of hesitation flashed in the eyes of the high-speed rail zombie, as if he was considering whether he could drag the big fish from the rain into the restaurant, if he was fast enough. However, the big fish soon retracted its fin. The high-speed rail zombie and Wang Qiushui were both disappointed. He couldn't help but look at Wang Qiushui. The high-speed rail zombie was fighting hard, so it was normal to be disappointed. Why was she disappointed? At this time, the big fish suddenly stuck its head out of the rain curtain into the restaurant. Then, its body slowly stretched in. However, it did not go in directly, but covered its body with a layer of rainwater, as if its entire body was soaked in a fish tank made of water. Wang Qiushui smacked his lips. Isn't this cheating? He laughed. This just shows that it is still a fish after all, and it can't live without water. So, if the layer of water outside can be removed, the fish will be dead. Wang Qiushui thought for a while. The big fish is very smart. Since it dares to take such a big risk to come in, it should not be so easy to deal with it. He shook his head. I don't know either. Let's see what the high-speed rail zombies can do. Seeing that the big fish dared to come in, the high-speed rail zombies didn't care about so much, and rushed over directly. As long as the big fish is dragged in here, and separated from the rain outside, at least the big fish can't be invisible. After the big fish came in, because there was no water, it couldn't swim in the air, and fell to the ground with a pop. However, it also saw the high-speed rail zombies rushing over, so it also slapped the ground with its fins and crawled over. When the distance between the two sides was getting closer and closer, the big fish slammed the ground with a slap, and jumped up directly. Then the fish head was aimed at the high-speed rail zombie in front of it. It seems that it really only knows these few tricks. Unexpectedly, the high-speed rail zombie also jumped up. Then, they met in the air. At this time, the high-speed rail zombie suddenly hugged the big fish, and its dense arms directly hugged the tail of the big fish, and its feet clamped the sides of the big fish. Due to the existence of the layer of bubbles outside, the big fish did not use its dorsal fin to attack the high-speed rail zombie. The next second, the high-speed rail zombie hugged the big fish and landed head first, and the big fish's head hit the ground directly. With a bang, the people on the roof felt the house shake. Wang Qiushui murmured, "This is too violent. The big fish will be crippled if it is hit like this." He shook his head. If it were a human, it might have a shattered skull, but it is more likely to break its neck and cause death. However, fish do not have necks, so the effect of this attack is not clear. Also, don't forget that there are bubbles outside the big fish. Water is the softest and can provide a lot of cushioning. Wang Qiushui nodded and continued to watch. Sure enough, after the big fish landed, it immediately used its tail fin to sweep towards the high-speed rail zombie. The high-speed rail zombie quickly jumped away to avoid the attack. The big fish's body swayed twice there, and then used its fins to support the ground, and the whole head was pulled out, leaving a big hole in the ground. A closer look showed that the big fish's head was not injured at all. It seems that the move just now did not have any effect on it. The high-speed rail zombie's eyes became more solemn, and it seemed that it did not expect such a result. After adjusting its body shape, the big fish rushed towards the high-speed rail zombie again. The high-speed rail zombie also rushed over, with all his arms clenched into fists. However, this time, his target was not the body of the big fish, but the layer of blisters on the outside. It seems that he also understood that, if he didn't get rid of the blisters, he couldn't even hurt the big fish, let alone kill it. The two sides were about to come into contact again. At this time, a long object suddenly grew out of the big fish, which looked like a spear. A closer look revealed that it was formed by the blisters. With a dang sound, the spear stabbed the high-speed rail zombie, but it didn't even pierce the skin. The high-speed rail zombie swung his fist and hit the spear with one punch. The spear broke with a snap and turned into water drops that fell to the ground. The high-speed rail zombie's eyes were happy, and he rushed over and hammered the back half of the spear again. Suddenly, more water drops fell to the ground, but more of them turned into water mist and dissipated in the air. A trace of anger flashed in the big fish's eyes, and he quickly put the spear back. When the high-speed rail zombie came close, the fish fin swung out suddenly, passed through the bubbles, and swam towards the high-speed rail zombie. The high-speed rail zombie stretched out two arms to block, and the other fist smashed the bubbles on the big fish. The fish fin swung out, the broken hand flew up, and at the same time, water droplets were smashed out. The big fish jumped up suddenly, opened its mouth wide, and wanted to swallow the broken hand. However, the high-speed rail zombie had already caught the broken hand and retreated. The big fish failed to grab the broken hand, nor could it bite off a piece of meat from the high-speed rail zombie. Instead, the bubbles on its body were hammered by the high-speed rail zombie, and they dissipated a lot. This wave is really a loss of both the wife and the army. The high-speed rail zombie was eating the broken hand over there, waiting for recovery. The big fish controlled the water droplets on the ground and merged them into its own bubbles to replenish it, which was better than nothing. Chapter 147 Both sides suffer. The big fish looked at the high-speed rail zombie, then at the blisters on its body, and felt that it was not breathing smoothly. Then, its eyes looked out the door again. Afterwards, the big fish quickly crawled towards the door, not knowing whether it was preparing to run away or simply going back to replenish water. The high-speed rail zombie naturally saw it, and rushed over with a thump thump thump. Then it held the big fish's tail regardless of anything, and threw it back. The big fish, which was about to reach the door, was thrown directly to the innermost part of the restaurant and hit the wall with a bang. The restaurant was even shaken, and several people on the roof began to doubt how long this restaurant could last. However, the big fish did not suffer any loss. When it was hugged, its tail fin scratched the high-speed rail zombie. At this time, the high-speed rail zombie was almost cut in half, cut in the middle, leaving a deep scratch, and even the inside could be seen clearly. Some of the eyes and mouths on the body were just scratched and directly divided into two halves, but they were still moving, and it seemed that there was no impact. However, his body no longer had any internal organs. It was completely empty and the whole body was black. Naturally, a lot of black liquid flowed out from the scratches, and even splashed a lot on the ground, which looked almost like a murder scene. The high-speed rail zombie hugged the right side with his left hand and the left side with his right hand, holding the whole body together. The wound cut by the tail fin was also connected together, and then the black liquid at the incision began to merge. The big fish, that was thrown against the wall, climbed up, shook its head, and saw that the high-speed rail zombie was healing. It naturally would not miss such a good opportunity. It did not bother to rush out, but rushed towards the high-speed rail zombie. The high-speed rail zombie hugged itself tightly, and began to run to the side, to avoid the big fish. The big fish was chasing after it. He couldn't help but laugh. "You chase me, if you catch me, I'll let you he." Wang Qiushui looked at him. "What is he?" He smiled. "He." Wang Qiushui stretched out her hand and pinched him. "Do you think there's no one around?" He suddenly felt a little embarrassed, and then explained. "He means to be beaten." "That's right." So one desperately runs away to avoid being beaten, and the other desperately chases to beat the other. Wang Qiushui covered her forehead and was speechless. But she said to herself, "Forget it. It's good to be able to explain it, so as not to teach the child bad things." After all, the high-speed rail zombies are still relatively flexible, and the big fish has no water, so it can only crawl, and it doesn't crawl fast. But because the space in the restaurant is limited, although the big fish failed to cause fatal injuries to the high-speed rail zombies, it still left a lot of scratches on the high-speed rail zombies, and even cut off the high-speed rail zombies' hands. That hand was naturally eaten by the big fish. However, those scratches were far less deep than the previous tail fin. After chasing for a while, the high-speed train zombie suddenly stopped, and the big fish following closely behind also stopped. The high-speed train zombie opened his hands, and the deep cut just now disappeared, and his whole body was intact. However, his body size has obviously shrunk a lot, and it is visibly smaller. Wang Qiushui smiled and said, "Well done, this is the most ideal state." The high-speed train zombie continues to shrink, and it is best to shrink to the size of a child. Before that, knock out the big fish's blisters. Then it's our turn to appear, one by one, and send them off. He looked at Wang Qiushui, not knowing what to say. What Wang Qiushui said was the most ideal state, which is almost impossible to happen in reality. The big fish took a look at the smaller high-speed train zombie, and rushed over again. The small scratches on the high-speed train zombie's body were still slowly repairing, and he didn't think twice, and rushed towards the big fish. Bang! The two of them collided with each other. The high-speed train zombie swung his iron fist continuously, and hit the blisters hard, splashing water droplets everywhere. The fins of the big fish swiped towards the body of the high-speed rail zombie again and again, trying to cut him in half, but each time it was blocked by the arms of the high-speed rail zombie. In addition to punching, the arms of the high-speed rail zombie were also responsible for blocking the fins, and for catching the broken hands, and feeding them to the mouth on the body. It was a complete division of labor. After the broken hand was eaten, it soon began to grow again, forming a cycle. Of course, in this process, the size of the high-speed rail zombie was slowly getting smaller, and it was obvious that the energy in the body was constantly being consumed. However, this consumption also had its rewards. As time went on, the bubbles on the big fish's body became smaller and smaller, and in the end only a thin film was left covering the body. Seeing this, the high-speed rail zombie gave up defense and smashed all the iron fists together. With a bang, the last layer of film was knocked off, and water droplets splashed everywhere. The remaining iron fists fell directly on the head of the big fish, making the head concave. The big fish shook its head in pain, not knowing whether it was hit, or because it was in pain, because it had no water, and could not breathe. However, the high-speed rail zombie did not come without paying a price. The fish fin slashed across both sides of his body at the same time, cutting off a lot of his hands, and forming two huge scratches, almost cutting him in half. When Wang Qiushui saw this scene, he rubbed his hands, and prepared to stand up. "I've been watching here for a long time, and it's finally my turn to go on stage." He pulled Wang Qiushui down and said, "Don't go." Wang Qiushui was puzzled. Why? One of them is almost cut in half, and the other is a fish out of water. Both of them can't jump for much longer. Why don't we take this opportunity to beat the drowning dog? What if they die together? He shook his head. I always feel that there are still variables. Let's wait and see. Wang Qiushui lay back down again. What variables are there? They have been fought like this. They are not far from death. He thought for a while, although they both had a posture of fighting to the death just now. But look at their current state. They don't look like they are dying. If they are really dying, they will definitely struggle to death. Wang Qiushui frowned. Now that you mention it, it's true. Obviously, both of them are in desperate situations, but they don't seem to be afraid at all, and they seem to be sure of victory. Especially the big fish. Although it was jumping around happily and looked painful, it would glance at the high-speed train zombie from time to time. Its big mouth was slightly open, and its teeth were exposed, as if it was waiting for the high-speed train zombie to come over and bite it. Not to mention the high-speed train zombie. It had such deep scratches on both sides, but it did not recover. It just looked at the big fish coldly, as if it was waiting for the big fish to die. Chapter 148 Pumping Water. Then, several minutes passed, and the fish was still jumping vigorously, looking like it was about to die. The high-speed rail zombie still did not repair its body, and just stood there quietly, waiting for the big fish to die. Wang Qiushui was speechless, so they are both acting, wanting to let the other party relax their guard, before launching a fatal attack, right? He replied helplessly. It seems to be like this, and then it depends on who is more patient. Whoever strikes first will definitely suffer. After saying that, the high-speed rail zombie seemed to be impatient, and began to slowly repair his body, while walking towards the big fish, seemingly preparing to do something. When the big fish saw the high-speed rail zombie approaching, it jumped even harder. Moreover, while jumping, it backed up, looking like it was trying its best to avoid the other party. Wang Qiushui sighed. It's a pity that this fish doesn't become an actor. Its acting skills are really good. Seeing that the big fish was still about to retreat, the high-speed rail zombie didn't care about that, and rushed over quickly. When it was almost close, it suddenly jumped up, clenched all its fists tightly, and aimed at the big fish's head. What awaited the big fish would be a beating of iron fists. However, when the high-speed rail zombie came over the big fish suddenly stopped jumping, and a strange red light flashed in its eyes. The high-speed rail zombie suddenly felt a sense of danger, and wanted to retreat, but there was no way to use the force in the air. So, he had to push part of his hands forward to block his body, and the rest of his hands wrapped his body, to form a simple defense. However, although the high-speed rail zombie took a defensive stance, it still failed to prevent the incident from happening. It was seen that water continued to flow out from the wounds on both sides of the high-speed rail zombie's body, forming a small river. The small river flowed all the way to the big fish's body, and a layer of bubbles formed again, covering the big fish. The big fish's eyes flashed with a gleam of light, and it continued to absorb water from the high-speed rail zombie's body, while its mouth opened wide, ready to swallow the high-speed rail zombie whole. The size of the high-speed rail zombie was getting smaller and smaller, and it was about to fall into the mouth of the big fish. At this time, he simply adjusted his posture, and accelerated to rush towards the big fish. The arms on his body no longer protected his body, and they were all replaced by fists. With a bang, the iron fist hit the teeth of the big fish, smashing all the teeth, and the broken teeth flew everywhere. The big fish closed its mouth, and wanted to swallow the high-speed rail zombie, but it only bit part of the arm of the high-speed rail zombie. The high-speed rail zombie kicked the big fish in the chin, and retreated with the rebound force. In this way, it finally got away, but the price was that the bitten arms were torn and remained in the mouth of the big fish. The big fish was kicked away, but because of the presence of bubbles, it did not suffer any injuries. That is, a few teeth were smashed. Moreover, it also ate several arms of the high-speed rail zombie, and the water was also replenished. It was a profit, no matter how you look at it. The water in the high-speed rail zombie's body was drained, and it shrank a lot, almost becoming the size of an adult. In addition, his arms also became much smaller, and only some small granulations could prove that there were arms in the previous place. The mouth and eyes on his body were even more tightly pressed together, because his body became smaller, which was simply a nightmare for people with trypophobia. Wang Qiushui was relieved when he saw this, because the series of reversals just now were too exciting. She asked again, "This big fish can extract water from its body. This feature is a bit too much. I wonder if the dark skirt can block it?" He thought for a while. If the big fish can extract water easily, it would not have to use it until just now. I guess there must be a prerequisite. At the beginning, the high-speed rail zombie ate the body of the big fish, and water should have entered the body of the high-speed rail zombie at that time. Then, the big fish caused serious injuries to the high-speed rail zombie, and opened two large holes. Finally, the distance between the high-speed rail zombie and the big fish was quite close, so the water was extracted. Wang Qiushui thought thoughtfully. In other words, the big fish thought about this from the beginning, so it transformed into that corpse for the high-speed rail zombie to eat. He nodded. That should be the case. The big fish should not be able to control all the water, but the water related to it, or the water in its body. Otherwise, it would not have to run to the gate and directly pump the rainwater outside to form bubbles. To be more direct, flood the restaurant and the high-speed rail zombie will be dead. Wang Qiushui breathed a sigh of relief. Since there are prerequisites, it's better. But the high-speed train zombie has been drained so much that its body has shrunk severely. It seems that it can't beat the big fish. He disagreed. Haven't you heard that? Concentration is the essence. He was just bigger before, although he could crush the opponent in terms of weight. But being too big will also affect speed and reaction. Moreover, zombies are not people after all. I think dehydration doesn't have much effect on them. If it were a human, the water content in the body would reach 70%, and it would have died of dehydration by now. Wang Qiushui looked down again after hearing this. Sure enough, although the high-speed train zombie was smaller at this time, its muscles looked stronger. An explosive force seemed to burst out at any time, and its eyes were as fierce as a leopard. Of course, if it weren't for the dehydration of his face, which made it wrinkled like an old man, it would definitely look more fierce. The big fish didn't look bad except for a few broken teeth and a slightly sunken head. And its body was covered with a layer of blisters, of course, not as thick as the first one. After all, there was only so much water in the body of the high-speed rail zombie. The high-speed rail zombie moved its neck and hands and feet, and then its red eyes widened like copper bells, and it rushed towards the big fish like a tiger descending from the mountain. The big fish was not afraid at all, and it rushed towards the high-speed rail zombie, slapping the ground with its fins. Wang Qiushui was surprised and said, "Fight. Fight." At this time, the high-speed rail zombie suddenly looked up at the ceiling. Wang Qiushui quickly covered himself with the invisible cloth, and at the same time, he did not forget to whisper, "Fight hard, don't hold back, it's best if both sides are injured." When they were almost close, the high-speed rail zombie and the big fish jumped up at the same time. The high-speed rail zombie protected himself with his hands in front of him, bent one leg and raised it, aiming at the chin of the big fish. The head of the big fish was aimed at the chest of the high-speed rail zombie. With a bang, the high-speed rail zombie's knee hit the chin of the big fish. The high-speed rail zombie was also knocked flying by the fish head. Chapter 149 Zombie Perpetual Motion Machine. Wang Qiushui blinked, looking at the big fish lying on the ground and the high-speed train zombie hitting the wall. So, what happened just now? Who won and who lost? The action just now was too fast. She really couldn't see clearly. She only knew that the two flew out together as soon as they touched. Moreover, both of them were lying down. There was no way to determine who won. He sighed. It's a tie. Wang Qiushui was stunned. Huh, he explained. Just now, the high-speed train zombie's knee strike didn't hit the big fish. The big fish used bubbles to form a shield to block the attack. Of course, the shield was also broken, and a lot of water droplets flew out. Although the high-speed train zombie was hit by the fish head, there was a flash of light on his chest at that time. It seems to be harder than before, so he should not be injured. Wang Qiushui nodded. Equally matched is good. I like evenly matched. Let them slowly consume. The more miserable the consumption, the better. I can't wait to be the fisherman. Sure enough, the high-speed train zombie and the big fish stood up again soon, glaring at each other at the same time. Then, they rushed towards each other again, and it seemed that a new round of battle was about to begin. However, this time they did not jump, but rushed straight forward. When it was close, the big fish opened its mouth. Because the high-speed rail zombie's body had shrunk, the big fish could completely swallow the high-speed rail zombie with its mouth open. Because the big fish opened its mouth, its teeth were not covered and protected by blisters. The high-speed rail zombie used both hands to support the big fish's mouth tightly to prevent it from falling, and the other arms began to knock on the big fish's teeth. After a burst of clang, a lot of the big fish's teeth were broken. If it continues like this, it will become a toothless tiger, and it is unknown whether the teeth can grow out. So the big fish shook its head violently and threw the high-speed rail zombie out. At the same time, it waved its fins and paddled towards the high-speed rail zombie. The high-speed rail zombie stretched out its arms to block it. If it was just now, not to mention directly breaking the high-speed rail zombie's hand, at least it could have scratched a deep scratch. But this time, the fish fin only left a very shallow scratch on the high-speed rail zombie's arm, and it could even be said that it only scratched the skin a little. Wang Qiushui exclaimed, "I saw it, I saw it." Just now, there was a bright silver metallic luster flashing on his arm. It should be because of that luster that strengthened his body and made it so hard. He nodded. Yes, that should be it. The big fish seemed a little confused. Why is his fin, which has always been effective, useless? Before the big fish thought more, the high-speed rail zombie directly hugged the big fish with both hands, and then the remaining arm hit the big fish. The foot kicked from time to time, and it seemed that it was ready to fight to the death. However, although the high-speed rail zombie fought hard, it hit the water bubbles. Even though the water droplets splashed and looked very powerful, it actually did not cause substantial damage to the big fish. However, the big fish would not be beaten alive. In particular, when it saw the water droplets splashing, it immediately became anxious, and its already red eyes became even redder. It struggled for a while, but found that the high-speed rail zombie was holding it tightly and would not let go, and it could not get away at all. So, it gave up struggling and directly swung its fins to chop at the high-speed rail zombie, ready to fight to the death. So, these two level 3 zombies are like children fighting. You hit me, I chop you. There is a back and forth, and it depends on who can't stand it first. As time goes by, the scars on the high-speed rail zombie are getting more and more. However, he is also repairing quickly. The price is that his body is getting smaller and smaller, and it is estimated that it is not far from the size of a child, as Wang Qiushui said. The blisters on the big fish are getting fewer and fewer, although it did not hurt it. But from its size, it is obviously anxious. I want to struggle, but I can't get away. I can only chop the high-speed rail zombie's hand desperately, hoping to cut it off, so that I can go outside to replenish water. It was not in a hurry when it was broken for the first time, because it knew that the water in the body of the high-speed rail zombie could still replenish it, which was definitely self-interested. But this time it was different. Once the blisters on its body were gone, it was really gone. Can a fish without water survive? Although it has become a zombie, it really doesn't want to know the answer to this question. Finally, with a pop, the bubbles on the big fish were completely broken, and a pool of water appeared on the ground. The big fish's eyes widened, with deep fear in them. Everything seemed to have settled. The high-speed rail zombie had grown from 2 meters to about 1.7 meters at this time, and its body was still repairing, and it was estimated that it would shrink. After knocking off the blisters, the high-speed rail zombie did not stop, and continued to swing his fists and hit the fish's head. At the same time, the body leaned against the fish, and the mouth above bit whatever it touched, and it would not refuse anyone. Soon, the big fish's head was hit, and a large piece was dented, and its body was bitten all over by the mouth of the high-speed rail zombie, and even the fish scales were eaten. However, the high-speed rail zombie was not having an easy time either. During this process, he was continuously chopped by the big fish, and had many scars on his body. Although biting the big fish's body could replenish some energy, it was obviously not enough to make ends meet, so he was still shrinking. At this time, the big fish seemed to have given up. Since they were all going to die, they might as well die together. It quickly swung its fins to chop at the high-speed rail zombie, and took advantage of the high-speed rail zombie's inattention to bite off a piece of meat with its mouth. It didn't dare to open its mouth too wide, otherwise its teeth would be smashed by the high-speed rail zombie, and it would not be able to bite. Besides, if the teeth were opened wide, the action would be too obvious, and it would give the high-speed rail zombie a chance to react. Wang Qiushui looked at the two biting each other and frowned. If the two of them play like this, does it count as a perpetual motion machine? The big fish swallows the body of the high-speed rail zombie to replenish its energy, and the high-speed rail zombie eats the body of the big fish to replenish its energy. He couldn't help but pat Wang Qiushui. What are you thinking about in your little head? Wang Qiushui touched his head. Am I wrong? He smiled. Energy will be reduced when it is transferred in the air, let alone between bodies. What's more, they need energy to digest and move, so a perpetual motion machine is impossible. In the end, both sides will suffer. Now it depends on who falls first. Wang Qiushui nodded. Then I hope they continue to fight like this, and don't fall so quickly. It would be best if both of them are crippled. Chapter 150 Deathly Counterattack. As time went by, it was just as he said. Although the body of the high-speed rail zombie was constantly replenishing, it was still shrinking, and had shrunk to 1.5 meters. The head of the big fish was completely sunken, with dense fist marks on it, and its body was bitten to pieces by the high-speed rail zombie. The most important thing is that due to the long period of no water, the big fish's hypoxia reaction became more and more serious, and even the reaction of waving its fins became slower. At this time, the high-speed rail zombie could no longer care about so much. He didn't even defend himself, but mashed it directly, thinking of getting rid of the big fish as soon as possible. Of course, he could stand aside and watch the big fish die. However, once he let go, the big fish might find a way to escape, and then he would be in vain, and it might even kill him. So, at this time, he became even crazier. The big fish's reaction became slower and slower, and in the end his eyes were half closed, and his fins only waved occasionally. Wang Qiushui took a look and said, "Guess, is this a stand-in? Is it really dead or fake this time?" With all the twists and turns just now, she is now much calmer, and is not ready to go down and grab the head immediately. He thought for a while. It should not be a stand-in. If it is a stand-in, it would have been blown up long ago. Wang Qiushui nodded. In that case, isn't it about to die? Should we do it? Otherwise, if the high-speed rail zombie kills it, I can't reach level 3. And the high-speed rail zombie has only shrunk, which is not easy to deal with. He pondered for a while. Don't rush to do it. If this big fish is really about to die, then the counterattack before death will definitely be the strongest. So, let's wait for the high-speed rail zombie to help us block it. Wang Qiushui asked again, what if the big fish can't even counterattack and is killed? He thought for a while. Then we will kill the high-speed rail zombie by force. With this invisibility cloth, it shouldn't be difficult to kill him after he shrinks. Wang Qiushui nodded and continued to read on. While they were discussing, the big fish's movements became weaker, but the high-speed rail zombie continued to punch the big fish's head, as if he wanted to make it explode. Or maybe it was to avenge the joke it had just made on it. Gradually, the big fish's fin stopped moving, its eyes were about to close, and its mouth was half open, and it looked like it was not far from death. Only then did the high-speed rail zombie stop, pounce on the big fish, and start biting it with its mouth on its body. However, because he had shrunk too much, he could only stand to the side of the big fish at this time, not even half the height of the big fish. As he bit, black liquid could be seen flowing down the big fish's body. Even so, the big fish still did not move, as if it was really powerless to resist. Wang Qiushui stood up. We have to do it now, otherwise the high-speed rail zombie will recover. If he eats the big fish, he might be bigger than before, and we won't be able to fight him. He held Wang Qiushui back. Look at the high-speed rail zombie. Although his mouth is biting the body of the big fish, his body is still tense, guarding against the big fish. Moreover, my scanner shows that there are 2 level 3 zombies below, so the big fish is not dead yet. Wang Qiushui had to lie down again after hearing this. She was anxious just now, so she didn't notice these. However, as the biting went deeper, the part of the big fish that was bitten had no meat, revealing black bones, and even the empty inside could be seen. Even so, the big fish still didn't move, as if it was really dead. After eating so much, the high-speed rail zombie became a little bigger. At the same time, he was no longer on guard against the big fish, but opened his mouth to eat. He even stepped one foot into the belly of the big fish, as if he was ready to get rid of the big fish from the inside. Suddenly, the big fish opened its eyes. Its head swung, and its fins followed suit, swishing across the high-speed rail zombie's legs, directly cutting off one of his legs. The high-speed rail zombie lost a leg, instantly lost balance, and lay on the ground. However, he also began to draw energy to restore the broken leg. His arms were propped up on the ground, dragging his body to get away from the big fish. However, the big fish obviously would not let him have his way. It opened its mouth wide and bit directly, swallowing the lower half of the high-speed rail zombie into its stomach. Then, it lay on the ground and did not move. Wang Qiushui looked at the high-speed rail zombie, who was only half of his body left and was still trying to get away from the big fish. And the big fish, which was motionless and had a big hole bitten out of its body. He was suddenly scared. Sure enough, these level 3 zombies were not easy to deal with. However, she soon rubbed her hands excitedly. Such a long wait is still worth it, and now it's my turn as the fisherman. The invisibility cloth next to him was suddenly unveiled, and Qiushui stood in the rain and looked at him. I want to go too. The two looked at Qiushui together, and he frowned even more. You just saw how powerful the counter-attack of the level 3 zombies was before they died. Although they are not far from death now, they may have some backup plans for you, an ordinary person. Qiushui interrupted him directly. I want to avenge my grandpa. He was silent for a while. Forget it, let's go down together. Qiushui looked at the empty rooftop. Is Zillion here too? He nodded. Well, we sent her here just now, and she should have covered herself with the invisibility cloth. Zillion, come out quickly. No one answered. Qiushui's face changed. She had just lost her grandfather, and she didn't want to lose her sister too. Zillion, are you here? Answer me. Next to her, the invisible cloth was lifted, and Qiushui's figure slowly appeared. Qiushui picked up the invisible cloth to shield Qiushui from the rain, and said, so you have been beside me all the time. Why didn't you say anything? I thought you were somewhere else. I was scared to death. Qiushui held the telescope in her hand, suddenly hugged Qiushui's thigh, and choked. I saw it all. Qiushui was stunned. What did you see? He looked at the telescope in Qiushui's hand, and a bad feeling flashed through his heart. Qiushui cried intermittently, Grandpa, Grandpa. His head flew up, and then was eaten by the big fish below. The hearts of several people present sank. He finally understood why the two sisters were silent just now. It turned out that they all saw that scene. I left in a hurry just now, so I forgot to take the high-power telescope with me. Who would have known that Qiushui, at such a young age, could actually use it, and happened to see that scene. End of this chapter. Thank you very much for reaching the end. Don't forget to like. Looking for more exclusive content and immediate access? Subscribe to our Patreon. Remember, every like, subscription, or donation encourages us to continue. Thanks to everyone. See you in the next video.